Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you are at YouTube, you will be able to see a little link down below, and you can click on it. It'll take you to Zoom. Little link down below. You can click on it, and take you into Makana, and you can ask questions and chat with other folks about what we're talking about. If you think you can answer some of the questions, we would love to have you on the panel. You just need to get here a little early. We start mic checks at about 6:40. If you come in early, we'll see, make sure that you're ready to go. If you're not sure you're ready, you can come as early as 6. We usually open around 6 o'clock. We have another meeting that happens actually before that. Sometimes it runs a little over, but around 6 o'clock we'll open up the doors, and we can check your. If there's no one to check, then we just kind of talk and have tea and coffee and get ready to go. But if you come early, we can play with your kit and make sure that everything's all ready to go, and that you're ready to go and jump on the panel. So you're more than welcome to come, and we'd love to have you join us here. If the way we break up these questions is first hour is general questions. And I said we were going to mostly just talk about office hours, but I realized we should probably keep on answering the general questions for the first hour. So we'll still do that. Then we have second hour is going to be talking all about our 1 year. This is the end of the 1 year. So it's kind of like the 1 year eve. You know, it's the 24th. Our birthday is technically tomorrow, but it's the eve of it's the end, the last one. So we're gonna celebrate a whole year, 365th version of this talk. So we'll do that the second hour. Chris Meyer is going to be on tomorrow. He's going to be talking about modular synthesizers, which should be really fun. And then, of course, AWS Part 3 comes on Friday. We got opened a conversation with educators on Saturday, as well as Resolve training and a little platform testing. So should be a fun week. And so we're make sure to tag things, comments that you have around the second hour. Make sure to tag those as second hour. And then we'll jump into those when either we get to the second hour or we run out of other general questions. I know a lot of people want to talk about it. All right. And I've got something to show you in the second hour. It'll be fun. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the questions.
Okay, Leo Mendel of London is up first, and he says, I launched Synagogue Tech, a YouTube channel, Dreaming Tech 5781. It is office hours style Q&A panel with a guest speaker. The first 2 shows went really well. However, today I got found severe or repeated violations of our community guidelines. We have removed your channel from YouTube. Any suggestions on how to fix that?
Wow. Paul?
Yeah, it's tough. You've got a tough road to hoe here, because I had my channel, austincast.com, taken down after 700 episodes, and a brief email from YouTube said, don't worry, we'll send you a backup. I never got the backup, and I'm still battling to get it back. There was absolutely nothing, no music, nothing that I can figure out. It's like going up against the stone wall. Maybe somebody else has had a better experience.
So Leo, do you have any idea what would have caused that?
No, unless the channel got hacked, maybe.
Yeah, I'm asking Leo. Do you have any idea what would cause anything that would have been said?
No, we reviewed through there. Was no bad language. There's nothing that's on there. We haven't played any third-party material even in the first 2 episodes. It was all this style communication. The only thing I can think of is we put links to our sponsors or our supporters, one of which is the Anne Frank Trust, which is about Holocaust related education. But there are recognized.
You put links in the description.
In the description to say that thanks to everybody does it. So there's nothing there. Unless they didn't like DVE store. That was another link.
I think it's all Guy's fault. And I think everyone knows that he's a troublemaker. And can you send me the ID on that? I think that because of the subject matter, you could have ended up being hacked. I think that you could end up with some unsavory folks. Enough people filing a complaint all at one time could cause it to go over, but it's something that YouTube should know is happening. So what I would do is just we'll in Discord, send me a link to the thing. I don't have an answer for you. I think that, go ahead, Jeffrey, do you have a better idea?
I think there might be one thing by what you just said. Did you check your comments at all? Because if comments go wild and they get really bad, YouTube will ding you on that.
Yeah, I don't
So
think I've never
watch
seen
your
anyone.
comments, maybe turn those off.
I didn't watch my comments. I'll be completely honest. We haven't watched them. Normally, I would get the email flags on comments, and I haven't had any. I haven't had a single thing.
Yeah,
so
and I don't think
looked.
usually channels aren't held responsible for their comments just because it's a cesspool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's. I think that send me a link to it. Well, I want to do some research on that. I don't have any good. What happens is you end up with trolls who will do all gang together and complain. Like that is, to me, it sounds like the most, especially given the subject matter, it seems like the most likely behavior is not something that is legitimate. It's something that a bunch of people decide to be trouble, and it's part of the problem with YouTube. Like it's just, it's a,
yeah, I'll do that. I mean, one of the things as Guy was on the last show, Marty was on the show before, you can't remember everything you said or did.
Yeah, but I mean,
sometimes, but nothing jarred in my head that was anything that was out of wrong.
Given the subject matter, I'd be surprised. Jeff?
Leo, did you check that material was not suitable for children? There's that checkbox. Yes, it is suitable or is not suitable.
No, I never, ever use that checkbox. Unless I do use that checkbox in one circumstance, because if you use that checkbox, it effectively turns 98% of the whole of YouTube off.
Yeah.
And it's not a good checkbox.
Well,
where did you have it?
You have to set it somewhere, don't you?
Yeah. I had it set. I had it set for not for children or whatever the default.
Yeah, that's the safe one.
Set it for the default.
That's the right one. Yeah, you turn it suitable for children. It's just a disaster.
I do set some events for suitable for children, but that's only because we're doing some stuff where we go out into schools. Because if we don't set it for that, then we find that the schools, it's actually the kids in the schools start writing hello, hello, hello to everybody.
Right.
So we turn it off. It's a quick way to turn off everything.
Yeah. So send me a link and we'll do some research. Next question.
Ari Block is up next, and Ari says, I've been thinking about creating a bank of Zoom pinning devices out of Raspberry Pis. For example, just the devices connected to the network, no mouse, keyboard, or display, the RDP into them in order to set up the Zoom client, and set the pins and NDI. Will this work, and and would it sound like a viable idea?
I don't think it'll work with a Raspberry Pi. I think that you won't have enough graphics processing. I think that's one of the things we saw with Playout B is that too many things moving will cause tearing, and that has to do with the Raspberry Pi's video output. And I don't think there's any way to surmount that. I think that a B-Link like Courtney's what was now branded in our group as Courtney's B-Link would probably be a better B-Link by Courtney. Anyway, so I think that will have the graphics processing enough to do it. It's not that much more expensive, but I wouldn't do it. I think that Raspberry Pis won't make the turn. This is much harder with so many people. We haven't had this many people in the panel. I have to scan a lot harder. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I would just suggest maybe checking into the Jetson Nano, since it does have like 128 GPUs, and it's built for video encoding.
Yeah, I really am interested in. And the Jetson Nano runs on Windows 10. Is that the?
No, it runs Linux. It's the same as Raspberry Pi. It's got, I think it has ARM chips. It's like a 4-core ARM chip.
Copy. Next question. Next question. Oh, can't hear you, Bill.
Sorry about that. New Brunswick, Canada, and Alan Scott asks, how can an attendee control their view in the new version of Zoom? Is that option controlled or prevented by the webinar settings?
Well, I guess the question for folks in Makana is, can you control it? Can you click between different things now if you have the newest version? So I don't know of any.
I would imagine at most you can just switch between gallery and speaker view.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether there's a chance. I mean, I haven't had time to really dig into it, but I'm wondering if there's a chance to turn it off and et cetera as well, because I don't know if I'd be, a lot of times when you're running a webinar, part of what you want to do is control the view, so you want to have it be able to turn on or off, because a lot of times you're trying to build a broadcast out of it. Go ahead, Peter.
Can someone in the attendee list test that? Because I used to play around with that when I was writing the Stream Deck.
Andrew Moyer says that there is no ability to change view. And Andrew, let us know if you're on the very newest version, 5.5.6. We'll keep playing with it.
5.6.0, isn't it?
I was at 5.6.6. I'm sorry, 5.6.0. Yeah, sorry. So, let us know if you're on the newest version and if you can, on the new, no, doesn't look like it. So, we're not sure yet. We'll have to do some more research. You can show or hide chat is the only view options that Thomas Bauer says he sees. So, it doesn't look like we've had any major update there that we know of. Next question.
Alex 40 Goldner here in the panel says, anything worth knowing about yesterday's update to version 5.6.0 of Zoom?
Inquiring minds want to know, and it's just been too quick for us to. We have to sit down and bang on it, I guess. Stuart.
I'm noticing the GPU fan isn't running as hard as it was yesterday with the same apps running in the background.
Interesting. Okay. It looked like there was some more controls, but I haven't seen them, and I realized I handed off control before I could really look at as a host if there's any extra controls, but I haven't seen any. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I also remember when we had a previous version update that we didn't get all the features until either the host was updated or the whole panel was updated or something like that.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll take advantage of my favorite feature in Zoom, and I'll enforce updating tomorrow. so that'll push everybody to 5.6. So I go ahead, Chris.
I'll say that John Preto and I have basically the same machine. The two of us had completely different upgrade experiences. Mine, I actually popped out of the meeting for a minute yesterday, did the upgrade, and popped right back in. John had huge problems with his machine.
I felt like I had some audio breakup on. I accidentally hit it right before I went on Mac break, and I felt like I was hearing audio breakup on the way back. That could have been Twit, but it was not something I'd heard before. They didn't hear it on my end, so I'm not sure exactly what was going on there. They have it's turned out that Twit has a computer that's like 12 years old or something that is the one that I happen to connect to, which is why I'm always in low resolution mode over there. So hopefully that's going to get upgraded soon, and then we'll have a better test.
I think John had to reinstall manual. What did you have to do, John?
Yeah, so in the middle of office hours, after Edelson told us that 5.6 dropped, I immediately went to upgrade. My machine wouldn't boot up. And so I had to force quit wouldn't even come up. And so I let it run for about 30 minutes, and finally whatever terminated. I had to manually go in, remove the runtime, and then reinstall it from scratch. And then I finally came back online.
Yeah, and I don't see any particular new features yet, like in the back end, that would allow people to change, their views. So we'll have to keep on looking at it. Next question.
Ari Block of Tel Aviv, Israel, comes in next, and he asks, what is the architecture for getting the same program feed out of vMix into multiple separate Zoom meetings? Think Tony Robbins style events and so forth. Does this require feeding the vMix output to a bunch of dedicated machines and then capturing from each machine to feed the respective meeting?
Leland, do you want to jump on that one?
Sure, I can give it a shot. Basically, I'll answer it with this. There are several ways. And if you're told that there's only one way, you're not being told correctly. So you could use individual laptops, you could use virtual machines, you could use a couple of PC builds and a lot of virtual cameras into browsers on other units as well. And if you have the ability to open the client in more than one session at one time with a business account, you can also do that. So there's also the idea that Benjamin has put together to open various clients so that you can bring in users and test it. So I would say play around a little bit, find what works for you. A lot of us are finding that sound devices attached to laptops are the way to go if you have the hardware and the resources. That gives you the most operating power. And of course, some of the guys working on the iOS systems have other builds that they've been doing as well.
Go ahead, Stuart.
I'll yield my time because Leland covered it all.
Perfect. Next question.
Moving on, this one comes to us from Robert McRae of Dallas, Texas. Does the panel think video calling will be added to traditionally voice-only business functions like customer service instead of representatives being in a call center that may be at home in front of green screens?
It's Rupert, I think. It's Rupert McRae. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, if you use my company as an example, the answer would be no. I've tried in vain to try to get the sales guys, because they can't travel now to see the customers, to do video conferencing and stuff. It just hasn't taken yet. I mean, it's not a dig on the company or anything. It's just, I think a lot of people just feel uncomfortable being in front of a camera still. I don't know.
It is. So what's funny is that Salesforce, we used to stream a lot of stuff for Salesforce, and Salesforce has been showing a demo of them doing video support via Salesforce or whatever, somehow built into the thing, for like a decade. Like you could call in and, they make it up. It's just part of their presentation. But I'm curious how many people actually would do that. But I do think that there is if you look at like someone shoot to something that is like their desk, just as an example, real quick, if someone's adventurous enough. The real power is, let's see here, if I go like this, is being able to do something like, hey, this needs to be pulled over here, and you see what you got here. This would save like 2 hours. Oh, I guess I'm now we're now in some kind of video feedback loop here. So, because someone, there we go. Yeah. Anyway, this being able to circle. Circle something and say, hey, the background here is this way or something like that is, those kinds of things, that kind of feature would save like half an hour of calling. And the problem, and I guess the way that when we talk to folks that have done some movement to video calling, because there are a couple companies that have done it, it's all about how long the call is and how much it costs to run it. So there's a lot of companies that build tons of video, and one of the reasons they do video is call deflection, because it costs $12 a call on average to handle the call. So having a shorter call that doesn't require a second follow-up, that's the model that a lot of people use to sell that to companies, is it'll cost less money to support people. Nick and then Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the video conferencing is going to be an integral part of most businesses going forward. I imagine there'll be some stragglers that lag behind, but we're even seeing in industrial settings, basically Android tablets that are headset form factor. So they have kind of like a Apache gunner monocle in front of you, and it's just a wearable Android tablet, and that is intended to use with Zoom. And so now they've got a camera facing the work they're doing. They could be remote back to the person in the chair.
Yeah, one of the things that we found super useful about Google Glass when we were testing it, when they had Hangouts in it, is that I could go like this, and I could see where my hands were and how I was framing them in Google Glass, and I could show you something like, look at this and go down like this, and this is how you turn this, and it was like, life-changing. Go ahead, Stephen, and then Courtney.
Yeah, things that are relationship based too, where mid-level and higher managers are doing this all the time now. And part of it is, years ago, we routed that inside Apple. You could actually route a FaceTime call through their call handling system. So it's happening.
Yeah, go ahead, Courtney.
I haven't seen it so much in customer service yet, but they all have live chat now to alleviate some of the call center issues. But I've noticed that because of COVID, all the doctor's offices have gone to video conferencing type doctor visits.
I had something wrong with my foot. I had the doctor look at my foot, prescribe something for me. I went and got and picked it up. I was like, why weren't we doing this like a decade ago? This is like so much better than sitting in line. Because then you don't have to. You're working, and you're in line at the doctor's office, to Courtney's point, and then you're talking to the doctor. And I don't think they needed to see anything else.
And you don't have to be exposed to everybody who's sick in the waiting room. That's the major advantage.
Yeah, I think that's going to stay. Stuart, and then Roscoe.
that video feedback before needed a sick beat, by the way.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the cynic in me suggests that customer service is going to be folded into sales with better looking humans on the other end of the camera for any big company that wants to make more sales, simply because it's someone you like to look at.
Well,
you're more likely to buy from, same as TV hosts have been for decades.
I will argue that customer
Whether that
service has
gets us-
always. I would argue that customer service has always been sales. Some companies just don't understand that,
Yeah.
and that's why they
But-
send it to people who don't do it very well.
The contra will be the call centers that scammers are using, and whether they end up applying the same sort of techniques to try and scam more people.
Roscoe, and then Chris, and then Chris Fenwick, and then Chris Fritchie.
Students carry smartphones, which are better than an ATEM Mini as far as they can zoom in on a screen that they're working on software and show something in a close-up. They can also quickly zoom in on equipment, that kind of stuff. It's been really helpful to have. It's better than anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Chris Fenwick, and then Fritchie.
I think a couple of things. One, if we could actually see the people we were talking to, I think it would alleviate a lot of fraud. Also, Alex, I can't get over there's 1 pixel left over from your telestrator, and it's blowing up in Mukana. Everybody's thank you. Okay, we can move on with the show.
Go ahead, Chris Fritchie, and then Peter Moore, and then we'll move on.
So I'll tell you, we had some custom code written for our website, and we sent it out to have some people quote on it. And the person that I ended up picking was the one who video called me back.
Yep.
Because I could look at them, I could get an instant answer just like that. Everybody else was an email 24 hours later. I was done in 5 minutes, and we chose them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Peter.
Very quickly, I worked for a small MVNO telco in South Melbourne about 10 years ago, and we had the ability then to actually do video calls, and we had some hard disk failures in our Boston data center, and the guy couldn't find it, so we got him on the video because we had that, got him to take the phone to the rack and said, no, it's that one there. See that one blinking? Right. See the red light? So
I think that the thing to look at is like, if you look back at our Raspberry Pi, little build, that was a great example of what happens when everyone's got video and we're all sitting there going, what about this? No, this point. And again, this telestration on top of that is part of what makes this work, and being able to, like Chris, for companies like, especially with hardware, being able to have that hardware sitting there and be able to pick it up, circle things, rotate it around, even having like little 3D objects that you could kind of rotate around and blow up and open up and whatever, it would blow people's minds in a way that they just go, well, I got this product and holy smokes, they do incredible service, and incredible service is going to be a big piece of the next puzzle. Let's move on. We're going to go to the next question.
Okay.
James of Dublin, Ireland is in next with, I have a Blackmagic Design Ultrastudio 3G. For some reason, it does not receive audio over HDMI. Any thoughts on what could cause the issue? And he note the Ultrastudio 3G is not showing up as an HDMI device on the source machine. My old mini recorders always showed up as an HDMI device.
I do.
Could it be the cable? Some HDMI cables of older nature don't have audio transport through the cable, so you might want to look into getting a new cable for one.
Maybe, Jeff.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I had the same thing for mini DisplayPort to HDMI. Some of those don't transmit audio, so test it into a monitor or something and see if you get audio. And then, Are you getting? I'm assuming from the question that he's getting picture, and the mini recorder is not set to SDI input. But if he's getting nothing, then it may be just trying to go to the SDI input and not the HDMI input.
Yep. Next question.
Alex Golner, who's in London, says, what are the opportunities for Zoom's offering to provide white labeling of their service?
You could build. I don't know enough about it yet. I'm still researching it, and I'm gonna. I think we should have a second hour on it as early as next week. So I'm looking at what to shift around for next week to do it, because I want us all to brainstorm about that, because I think it's pretty important to get ahead of it. Anyway, go ahead, John Edelson.
Just there was a story in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, and there's a blog at the Zoom site if you want to learn more about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think in my head you could build a video version of Clubhouse, or what we're doing, inside of something that's more dedicated, possibly without the little connection. doctor icon on it. Not that I'm bitter, but you know, like I think that the interesting thing is that the thing that we have to figure out is this whole idea that you can't. It appears it's all or nothing, which I want to figure out what that means. That you can't have a custom client that connects to Zoom, you know, that's the part that I didn't quite understand. So that's the part I'm kind of still trying to figure out. Go ahead, Chris.
I thought there was a couple of neat little examples on that website. If you scroll down, they showed some, you know, kind of hacked together creative uses, mostly in the iOS world, it seemed like.
I think it's really exciting. And I think all these event companies, I think it definitely devalues Hopin's purchase of StreamYard, because now everybody's going to have some interactive tool that they can add to their event platform. You know, so that'll be a more complicated thing for them. Nick, and then JJ.
Yeah, I do hope we do see more, maybe even along the lines of like an SDK for Zoom that allows it to be integrated. There are other video chat solutions. I think Angora.io is actually
isn't that just audio
server. No, it's video as well, and they even have and they have an Unreal Engine plugin. So, and it's cross-platform. It works on Mac and PC. So I don't know much about it other than what I've read on its website, but just seeing that exists, and you know, it could be driving some.
Well, that's what I believe. I think Angora is what. I think that's what Clubhouse is based on. Like it just sits on top of the platform.
Okay.
Yeah. JJ.
I think allowing for a more agnostic approach to production, wherein, you know, at some point folks were trying to use phones to make movies, that this now becomes a platform, and it would allow that content to be created for all sorts of different kinds of media out there, and whether it be a streaming service, you know, name your favorite, or the slowly waning television services that exist, you know, using this as a platform for that content done well.
It could revolutionize news gathering. Leyland?
Didn't know if you were going there. Just from my own experience, I've witnessed what I see as a corporate white label version of Zoom. If you go to Boston University, bostonu.zoom.us, you'll see, I put a link in Mukana, you'll see the interface they've incorporated with the SDK to use it as a branded version of Zoom for themselves. So I'm not sure the details of that, but it's something to be looking into.
Next question.
Stuart Fairweather, Melbourne, Australia, and here on the panel says, where is Resolve's stereoscopic timeline mode?
I don't know. Hold on. Go ahead, Ken.
I have not been able to find it yet.
Ken? No, I can't hear you, Ken. Yep, there you go. Nope.
Yeah, it's in can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry. It's in Fusion, the Fusion app. So it's not actually in Resolve. You fire up the Fusion app, and then that has all the.
Is it on the Fusion page? Oh, good. Chris Fritchie?
Can you define what that means? Stereoscopic audio?
We had a stereoscopic video, I think, is that it's a time. He's looking for the timeline to be able to edit stereoscopic. And the stereoscopic, of course, is seen in 3D, which, you know, we had on Monday we had a anaglyph, or not 3D, but we had a stereo photography discussion. So I think a lot of us are thinking about it. I've been thinking about building, by the way, something that will mount these two cameras perfectly so that they're at interocular distance, or these two phones at interocular distance from each other, so that I could theoretically record stereo video on an iPhone. Go ahead, Stuart.
Mr. Fritchie, if you would look where my hand is now, those are two KO1s with two matched Pentax 50mm f2 lenses. And I just happened to have a 3D rig I was building for a film ages ago that never got made. So I thought it was time to play with it. But so yeah, I realized in Fusion, in Resolve is where I look rather than in the edit or the regular timeline. Cool.
I think so, but I think we want to play with it a little bit. Go ahead, Chris.
So quick question. So he has both of his cameras side by side. They're both oriented the same way. Alex, you held the phones up the same way the GoPro does, where one's upside down and one's
That's
not.
because
Is
you'd
that
have to
just
do
so
it that
the-
way to get them to the right distance apart. You'd have to.
I got you. Okay.
And I believe, and I haven't, that typically when we record it, the phone tends to right itself. So I think it'll actually spin to where it needs to be. And you'd end up with this little thing that you could, and I think I want to be able to adjust them, but I'll probably start with them just being just the way they are. And I have to admit that I was really inspired by Monday's talk. And so I'm like, I went and ordered, I got some, hold on. We were talking about this in the pre-show, but I got some Coolio sunglasses that are red and blue. These are a lot better than the little cardboard ones. And they're like $15 on Amazon. And there's a whole world of anaglyphs that live inside of Google, or live inside the internet that you, when you Google, it's the coolest thing is just the Google images, because they all show up and it looks like a whole bunch of little 3D boxes when you have the glasses on. Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, the camera's just sitting on there for display purpose at the moment. The GoPro Hero 2 actually had a 3D rig that was available with a USB cable to link them and sync them.
And it
and
barely
one of the
ever
cameras
worked.
was upside down in that. Yeah, but I only wanted it to try it with the Hero 3.
Yeah, I had a whole case that you'd put the heroes in, and it half the time it wouldn't fire off both of them. Next question.
Andrew Moyer of Oakville, Canada, Ontario says, Guy, can you talk about the experience using the interpreter as a back channel from yesterday's Zoom test kitchen? Is it viable?
Yeah, yesterday we were, Chuck Wojak and a few of us, Ray Franklin from the group and Andrew Moyer, were trying this as a back channel. I first heard about it from John, where you set it up before the meeting, and then you say like add Korean. And so I got assigned Korean. I don't speak Korean, but I speak back channel. And so we're thinking about putting the talent on this in-ear with that Korean back channel. So now we can talk to them during a Zoom meeting without having to, add Unity or anything else. So it went pretty well. The main mix gets ducked. So it was kind of cool to hear. David Brady was also in the meeting, and he was letting us know what he was hearing, which he was saying that he could hear the English version, but he could hear my Korean version subtitles.
But does that mean that all the attendees would hear the back channel as well?
No, they would have, well, if they select it, but who would know to go to Korean? So that's the thing, is you got to pick some obscure language if you want to kind of use it just as something, along the lines of being kind of hidden.
Right.
Looks like John
Hiddleston.
Yeah, the challenge is that because it's for translation, it shows up so your participants could see it, and it does duck it. So we did some experimenting with some of our field trips. And so the main speaker, when they're getting the back channel, they lose whatever's happening. And for us, sometimes it's students. And you can't adjust how much that volume is. So we had to use the back channel carefully, but it worked.
Great. I'm going to step away for just 1 second, but I'll let you go ahead and just jump to the next question.
Okay, the next question comes from Philip Oler of Katona, New York. Microsoft Teams has recently enabled NDI Broadcast on the Mac version. Is there another solution beside Mimo Live to capture the NDI stream? And it looks like Nick Justison has his hand up immediately. Go, Nick.
Yeah, you can use OBS there's an NDI plugin for OBS, and so really for no charge you could set that up, and that would be able to capture your NDI stream.
Okay, I don't see any other hands extant. So,
Oliver
there
had
it
a
is.
hand up.
Jeffrey. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. There's two
Leland.
pages now.
Yeah.
Let me do Jeffrey and then if I'll go ahead.
So Wirecast also does that, and you can also do Studio Monitor. Quick note that they're going to come out with a beta of Wirecast for the M1 coming out in the next couple of weeks.
I see Leo Mendel's hand up. Go ahead, Leo.
And this is another one for exactly the same. It's Ecamm, have that built in natively. It works really well, actually, NDI and Ecamm.
And Beju.
Yeah, for more heavier production, Softron's recorder also supports NDI in, I believe. So you could record multiple channels of NDI into it, and you can do growing files with that. So you could use that for real-time edits as well.
Leland Best. And it's interesting picking people from the panel when you have two screens.
It is fun, isn't it? Two solutions there from my standpoint. vMix provides two separate clients for NDI desktop capture for both the PC and the Mac, surprisingly. But that's one I recommend to anyone that's on iOS. It has some extra features that most of the NDI captures don't have. And then there's always NDI Studio Monitor. You can open as many of those as you need to record separate NDI sources if you need to.
And we'll finish up with John Idelson.
Just Vimo Live is rock solid when you do it. So we've had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, it works great. Next question.
Moving on to the next question. I have to get my cursor over here. It's David Brady out of New York. And David asks, since getting in-ear monitors, the Zoom experience has been a little disoriented, only hearing my voice resonating in my skull. Is there any way to mix in a little bit of my own voice on both Mac and Windows? Note, I can hear the far end crystal clear, but I find myself either over or under projecting.
Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I usually just keep one ear in so that it's not that disorienting. But for you to be able to get a little bit of side tone, you could only do it reliably on hardware, or at least do it without any latency using hardware. If you go through the computer, then you will have inherent latency due to drivers.
Yep. Jeffrey?
Yeah, hardware. I agree on the hardware, but on Windows side, if you go into the properties of the audio, there's like a third tab in where you can check a box that says monitor your sound, and then it'll come back into you. But it could bring a lot more back into you as well. Just keep that in mind.
And I don't hear myself on this show. I don't hear myself at all. So I have an in-ear, but I take the direct out from the computer, so I don't actually hear myself in my headphone. Next question, which has got its own problems. Sometimes I like to do that, but I do it because I'm always afraid that I'll suddenly get disconnected. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, if your in-ears give you the option to switch out tips to something that isn't quite sealed, that could help as well.
Yeah. Next question.
Tyler Roberts from Chambersville, and I'm not sure where, Chambersburg, I'm sorry. Does the Blackmagic Web Presenter HD aggregate the wired connection and tethered mobile connection, or is it one or the other?
I think it's one or the other. I don't think it aggregates them. There's a lot more things that would have to happen for to aggregate it. To aggregate it, you need something in the cloud or another piece of hardware that's aggregating that on the other side. And I don't think that they're providing that service. So I think it jumps from one to the other. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm assuming this is the same that's in the new update of the ATEM. And does anyone know what causes it to fail over to the cell connection? Is it a bandwidth in the Ethernet, or is it a complete drop of the Ethernet?
My guess is it probably. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to test it. These are the hardest things to test sometimes because it's hard for you to just. There's no router that I know of that I can just dial down the speed, take a look at it. So you can kind of keep on setting up VLANs and trying to set it through. We just haven't gotten that far. Felipe?
There's a tool from Mac OS that you can dial down which type of connection you want to simulate. So you could connect the hardware on the ATEM like that. I have to take a look. It's one of the Apple tools for development for you to test. Let's say it makes it look like that you're on a 3G network with a certain amount of packet loss. And guess with the ATEM is that it's probably pinging a server. And if there is a certain amount of packet loss, it fails over. But
yeah, interesting. Mickey?
Yeah, with certain routers and enterprise grade network infrastructure, you could put bandwidth limits on clients, so you could possibly dial it down gradually.
We've had a hard time. You can. It's just that you can't dial it down, so it becomes this really big thing where you stop it, start it, stop it, start it, stop it. Like you reset the VLAN, and we haven't found it to be. Yeah, it's been hard for us to kind of play with, but yeah. Next question.
Comes from Robert, I'm going to guess Manche of Como, Italy, and it's about Zoom webinars. Is there a way to send a generic webinar link to a panelist? Their agency wants to send invitations to panelists in bulk, but doesn't want them to register or receive the Zoom invitation.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I mean, you could always send them the link, and then just like Alex uses, this is a webinar, and we all join in, and then we kind of raise our hand to be promoted to panelist before the event starts. So you could selectively promote an attendee to a panelist after they've joined.
I think you can actually invite. I've been invited as a panelist only into webinars. You can set it up in the list that's in the webinar build, Leo.
Yeah. So the downside of what Nick's just said is that you can't do the demo mode. I've forgotten what it's called to try and test it.
Right, and that's what you need to. That's why you need to set people up as attendees.
And to what as panelists. But what you're saying earlier is that you then have the panelists. You can add in the email addresses. If they're sending out emails anyway, it's just give us the email and we'll just pop them in. Bang, 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 bang. That's because you need to send it to them somehow.
And I think you can load those panelist invites in as a spreadsheet as well, where it's just a name and an email. So like a CSV file.
Yeah, it says import. You import CSV. You can have mine. My webinar supports up to 300 panelists, and it will send an invitation after importing. So you get that information as a CSV. It has email in first column, full name in second column, and then it will send an invite to it. So that is exactly the answer for that need. Next question.
Jan Landy from here in the panel often and here today. Today, as we have more than 25 people on the panel, the YouTube gallery limit, can you control which members on the panel are being shown in the gallery view on YouTube, or is Zoom doing that automatically?
Zoom does it automatically, although I think that if Mickey rearranged his panel, it would change who's where on Zoom. Mickey?
Yeah, specifically to what goes out to YouTube. I mean, I always have a custom arrangement of my gallery view, and that doesn't seem to reflect.
Okay, so it doesn't reflect. I thought they had changed that or updated it so that you could do that, but evidently not.
Also, for those of us here, you can change to a 49 view in the video tab of the settings.
For us, but not for us. Yeah. If you're in Zoom as a panelist, you can change to 49. But for YouTube, it's only 25.
I would wonder if it changes with raised hands as well, given that changes for everyone, and obviously we don't like doing it. But I wonder if that would change it around for YouTube. I just haven't tried that.
Mickey has just raised his hand. We'll see if that moves him in the stream. Are you? Let's see. And Grant is talking about it right now, and which is interesting because it's a completely different layout, in YouTube, as opposed to, nope, didn't seem to move Mickey. All right, next question.
Okay, David Brady is up next. Was similar to Roger.
Oh, sorry, Beju. Did you have your hand up, Beju? Sorry,
it's really hard to see people.
No, the funny thing was I noticed that Beju had his hand up looking through YouTube. I saw it. I was like, oh wait, I just talked over top of him. All right, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to ask Mickey about it, like he has his custom layout in Zoom in the gallery view, but does he also have enable follow host view enabled as well? Yes.
Yeah, that's how he does the edit. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, because that on meetings at least that forces you in, but on webinar doesn't seem to then. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Phil, and then Bill.
When the host pins, it'll move your picture up to the top also. So the speaker, if you were to pin me now, without spotlighting, it's going to move me up to the viewers like 2 or 3rd spot.
Oh, interesting. Go ahead, Bill, and then Mickey.
When we were doing the separate ones for Andy Carlucci, we had a lot of people on the panel. We had 3 screens sometimes of people. And then one of the techniques I was playing with for a little bit of the early part of that is if you raise your Zoom hand, it would put that person up in a row at the very top of my view as one of the hosts.
On your view, but I don't think it's going out to YouTube, though. I think that's the difference. Go ahead, Mickey, real quick.
Yeah, same thing. It only affects your own view.
Next question.
Moving to David Brady, similar to Roger Manche's question, is there a way to bulk export the panelist links? Some aggressive spam filters block any Zoom-generated invites.
I don't know if you can do that. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I think that it pushes them out. Go ahead, Matt.
So you can't, because those links are individual per person.
Right.
So what you can do is change the name of who it's coming from. So you can actually, like, I have a client that I do webinars for, and I've changed it to her email address. So it's as if it's coming from her. It just replaces the name in the email, not the actual email address. It's still coming from Zoom. It says do not reply at zoom.us, but it changes the name that's associated with that email address. That might help. If the email client recognizes the name of the person, it might get around the spam blocker.
I guess I don't know. I'm not clear that the join link is different for every person. That I can probably actually look for that. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, so I mean, I've done a lot. I've been now doing this for a year, and was doing webinars as well, but I did it all through the API. And when you do it through the API, you get that unique join link. So you give it an email address and first and last name, and then it gives you a join link. And it is a unique join link, which tells Zoom the registration that it's tied to. It then means that it doesn't have to, if you don't have authenticated, require authentication turned on, then they don't even have to be logged into Zoom, and they'll come in as the person you've registered them as. So the answer to the question is, I can do an export of those lists of the links,
Right.
but it's not just in the system.
Got it. It's not available.
Grant, don't you move those over to Infusionsoft anyways, outside of Zoom?
I mean, we're talking webinar specifically here, like with panelists and things. But yeah, yes, we store the join link for all of our attendees that join our meetings, and they are unique as well because then we control their name, and yeah, I mean, we're supporting multiple systems, not just Infusionsoft. But yeah.
Yep. Next question.
Comes to us from Sandro in New York City. And Sandro says, what is the best way to add lower third titling to remote Zoom participants? I was thinking about using Zoom's second monitor and pinning on the local view and then routing that into OBS to add the titles and then back into Zoom via the OBS virtual camera. But I think this will add latency to the audio and video stream.
Yeah, OBS will add latency, and I don't know whether you're on a Mac or a PC. PC's OBS will run a little bit better. We would probably use Mimo for that on the Mac, or if they, that's probably, I don't know because I don't think that can you put out something in the foreground with. Go ahead, Grant.
I was just going to say that there is Andy did a video about this with Zoom OSC. Doing lower thirds, pulling the data directly from Zoom, and so and into vMix. So it had the data coming in and was very slick. So you could look at that YouTube video that Andy.
He did that video, and also I think we talked about it a little bit in office hours, where he's grabbing onto that data and putting it into vMix. Now that assumes you're having vMix on your end as well. Go ahead, Leland.
When we did the Public Health Institute event, I used vMix to pull that off. And the way we did it was we created each window setup. Like, I'm losing it. Freaking Zoom. Zoom keeps breaking on me today for sending reports into Zoom. Okay. It's broken 3 times now just sitting here. So,
okay. You're breaking up. Next question.
Chris Widener's up next. And Chris asks, has anyone looked at Unite remote contribution system for NDI Workflows? I got an email about it yesterday, and it looks interesting. Any opinions?
I'm assuming that's Sienna Unite is probably what and I know that Jeff Keithley uses it a fair bit and talks about it a fair bit. And we'd have to, we should probably, we're due another Sienna talk from Jeff sometime soon. So stay tuned for that conversation, because that market is moving very quickly. But let's bring that up again when you see Jeff Keithley in the group, because he's the one that really knows Sienna. Next question.
Wilson Martinez in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've always wondered what's the reason behind the yellow tint on movies based in LA or Mexico. I wanted to joke and say pollution, but
smart.
It's not as bad as it used to be.
It's I mean, it's obviously a creative process that for some reason people have decided that that's the That's the color. I think it might have originated from Traffic, or maybe before that, but Traffic was the one that really did a lot of work on trying to tell you where they were based on that. And we use that a lot. You'll see a lot of color being used. The Matrix, told you where you were based on very subtle color hues. So the digital world was subtle green, and the real world was a subtle, kind of warmer color, and that was communicating to you where you were all the time. So those are things that happen all the time, and people have decided that they do it. And now I'm probably is seen negatively now compared to what it was seen as a creative choice back then. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, don't forget Pleasantville.
Right, pure black and white. Yeah, they went all the way, with that theory. But yeah, it's just some director making a decision that they think that that's a way to communicate to the audience where you are, especially when you're cutting back and forth. It just tells you, instead of saying now in blah blah blah, you give it a color hue to tell you that you're there. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I mean, all of these tools, such as color, it's a storytelling tool. So think of movies like Memento, where when you're in the I think when you're in the future going back, it's in black and white, or the other way around. I can't recall exactly, but it's a
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
but
and I think you could say that American directors, you could consider it fairly pejorative to go to the emerging world and always make it yellow. Is not a great thing to do anymore. like they should probably stop. All right, next question.
Peter Moore of Auckland, New Zealand is back with, has anyone used Odysee, that's Odyssee, a supposed YouTube competitor, but without the quote constraints? He's got a link there.
Good luck with that. I haven't. I doubt it. I think it would probably, to me, it just is probably just a giant dumpster fire. Sorry, I don't think that I would be that interested in it because YouTube has got not enough constraints as far as I'm concerned. So I think that something that had less constraints is probably not something I'd be interested in looking at. I'd probably want to carve my eyes out. Peter.
Yeah, I was just curious because it's come up on a couple of channels that I subscribe to where they're sort of on the verge of conspiracy theories, and they're probably going to be deplatformed. So they're saying, "Oh, we're going over to Odysee." So
sure. There we go. Peter. I'm sorry, not Peter. Jeffrey, and then Courtney, and then Bill. Real quick, we're moving through.
Yeah, they've had YouTube competitors before. There was one a couple of years ago that everybody got on a bandwagon for, and then that kind of disappeared. There's a lot of copyright issues, and I was looking at some of the terms of service, and it's kind of cheesy some of the wording that they have on there. So I'm not getting close to it.
Yeah, go ahead, Courtney, and then Bill, real quick.
I was just wondering if by constraints you meant copyright constraints or just family-friendly constraints.
Probably all of those. Which is, Bill, real quick.
I never give much serious concern to any website that looks like a pure HTML template, which that one did.
Yeah. Next question.
Stuart Fairweather here in the panel says, if Teams now has NDI output, will Zoom follow? Excuse me.
I think that has been. Yeah. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, they've said that they're it's on the roadmap. I think it's probably going to go into Zoom Rooms first, but it's supposed to come sometime. They've been talking about it for a long time now.
Yeah. Next question.
Brant Kruger. This has probably been our most asked question, or some form of this, for the last year in Minneapolis. How are the office hours audio levels determined? I feel like for 10 months, people have been asking me to be louder. So I was really thrown when I came in hot on the mic check last week. Is there a way for newbies to pre-check their audio somehow?
Come on. That's why we open at 6. It really is. I mean, just so you know, that is why we're opened early before the mic check, is to let people, if they're not sure, we're all talking. What happens is that we all get on and start talking and have, relatively, and we go, oh, by the way, you're really hot, or, oh, you're really, soft, or whatever. And so it kind of, if you come on early, we all kind of pull into plus or minus 4 or 5 dB, by the time we get to mic check. And so that's usually, if you're not sure, the best time to come in is early. Go ahead, Jen.
There is a rough way to do it. If you go to the bottom left-hand corner where it says your microphone, and you click the caret, one of the choices is test microphone and speaker, and you'll get a rough idea, and that will work even if you're muted for the Zoom call.
I mean, the hard part is that we have a very specific, target, which is, so the general Zoom test doesn't work because our targets are a little lower than the general Zoom one. Mickey, and then Jeffrey.
Exactly what you said. When you have automatically adjust the level checked, Zoom seems to like to target somewhere in the range of -18, -20 LUFS, while we are targeting -24. And aside from the pre-show, there's also the pre-show, which most of the time the meters are there as well.
And that that one we really dig into it, for folks who come in the pre-show. Let's go to the next question. We're running out of time.
Tim McKean of Chandler, Arizona says, has anyone tried using bone conducting headphones with video calls like Zoom?
I actually know I've seen. Yeah, go ahead, JJ.
I use them all the time, and the ones that I use, I found that when I'm on mobile, they work really well as far as it's the Aeropex line. They're really nice and quiet.
There you go. Next question.
Doug Ferguson says, how do you get Zoom to maximize one speaker? There was some confluffle with two Doug Fergusons early that I saw a question about that, but it wasn't relevant.
I think you just spotlight them. I think that's all. Zoom to maximize one speaker is a spotlight. That'll maximize it for everybody. Next question.
James Babbitt of San Diego says, if a group wants to hold an in-person retreat for around 40 people, is there an effective way to include a large group on Zoom, or maybe just send out recordings of the in-person event?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this dives into hybrid events, I believe. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I guess it's a longer discussion. Go back to previous office hours where we've
and watch us attack hybrid events
about not doing it. So it's an interesting one. I think even you're saying, oh, maybe you pre-record it and make it available to a larger group. I mean, ultimately, I think do the whole retreat again, just for an online audience.
Yeah.
It will be a far better experience.
When we get back to doing physical events, I'm just telling, I promise you that with a couple of years, the hybrid events will just die away because the online audience is so much larger, and they're just going to drop away. They're going to be bored because there's all these digital first events that are coming out that are, you are in the conversation. Like if you look at what we're doing here, we could never do that. If we did this all in a room and we were all just talking, it'd be worthless, and so the thing is that, and so the thing, people are going to start seeing that, and they're going to see digital first events, and they're going to see hybrid events, and they're just going to stop going to the hybrid events. Like that's what's going to, I mean, that's the behavior of the user will, unless it's really, really good. Chris?
I did 2 events here local where I went to the actual event, shot it, recorded it, all that stuff. We posted it up for people. And then I asked them, I said, well, if you want to have a clean cut version, just come over to the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Just have the regular background behind you. You guys can do it again. You would have thought I was asking them to give me their firstborn.
Oh yeah. No, it's again, people are backwards right now, but people are always backwards when something disruptive happens. Like they think backwards for a while. There's a handful of people that think forward, and then they move forward. Newspapers thought they were going to last forever. Music industry thought they could. Horse. Yeah, I mean, yeah, everyone wants a faster horse. Like they're like that is a, when cars came out, we've talked about this since the beginning. When cars came out, they were slow. They couldn't go off road. They broke down a lot. People were like, well, that's stupid. That's silly. That's whatever. Those people are nuts. And then, now we just ride horses for fun, and we'll still meet for fun, but like real business is going to move to digital first events over the next decade, but it'll take a decade, and, backwards thinking will last for a little while. Next question.
And the final one in the regular group for this morning, Joe Lovell of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania says, did anyone receive an email from Facebook saying they're done with watch parties? It says we should go download our history before they delete it. Does anyone know why they are leaving the game, so to speak?
Watch parties were the launch event platform. Is that right? And there are a whole bunch of problems with it. Go ahead, Leo.
Hello, JLo. But the interesting thing on this is that they've been completely changing how you do cross-posting of videos. A lot of it seems to have broken. A lot of it seems to be getting better, but they've completely changed the way that this is happening. And really, a watch party was a cross-post. That was my experience, and that seems to be being changed.
Well, I thought my understanding is a watch party was a live presentation of a VOD that people could then comment on. And, you know, which we've done a little bit of. We did a Netflix party in a similar way. And the Netflix party, I think, was actually pretty compelling because we're actually interacting. We were actually talking to people about something. Whereas I found the watch parties to be, both for the premieres with YouTube as well as the watch parties with Facebook, are kind of boring. You know, they're just not like, they're not a good implementation. It's a bunch of people like texting back and forth while watching. And I don't. We tried it a couple times. We did it for clients, and we were just like, well, this was boring. So, and what people found was much more, for whatever reason, and part of it was because of notifications, was simulating a live event got you more viewers than using the watch party function, you know. And so you would, we even had ones that were like 4 minutes long, which are really stressful to go live on 4 minutes. But they would do a video playback. We did a music video launch for a really big band on Facebook, but we specifically did it as a live event. But it was a VOD being played out as a live event, which Facebook doesn't condone, but it was still always more effective than watch parties. So everyone went back. They played with watch parties for a little while, and then we saw everybody just go back. All right. We are switching gears, moving on to the next thing. The next thing in this case is the last thing, the first thing. We have been, I had something here to show you guys. There was a lot of digging for me to find this. Hold on. Let's see here. Oh, Mickey, can you give me a screen share? Whoa. I got a poll. Hold on. All right. I hit the wrong poll. All right.
The poll said, was this last year worth it?
Yeah, exactly.
No sound.
Oh, no sound. Okay, hold on. Let me stop. You think I'd learn how to use this product? Hold on.
You know, you can actually turn the sound back on without stopping the screen share now.
Because we were making really, really big files, MacBreak video. Can
you see it now?
Can you hear it now?
We would set that keyframe.
So there's my little setup, and this was really hard for me, by the way. This is the first one. This is a year ago or 365 ago, and there's Phil
right next to it on.
It's because we're all doing it from home. I'm trying to figure out a way when I'm doing a webinar to be able to control really this multi participant and then focus, a little bit of a switching thing. And Zoom doesn't have tools like that.
Put it in a separate machine, right?
We hadn't figured out.
My question is, like, what service or system would you advise for using, especially for
hardware, but less?
And I think I was pretty much answering all the questions.
Space, having one Skype per computer.
Wait. There was Grant. I saw him a second ago. Anyway, I think I can get the list. I have to go back, but there's a.
Here's the
Tim
question.
coming in from a. So this was anyway. This was the beginning. It doesn't show. It doesn't show the first ones. I went back and looked at it. None of them show the grid. So they're all, the old recording would always just record. At least the way it was set up default was to record I could probably reproduce the grid somehow of like who all was there. But anyway, that was where it began. Yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
I'm going to point out that a year ago, that was probably pretty damn good.
It was good. It was good. It was a good, but it was funny. I was so like, oh, I have to get this. I have to get my backdrop better, and I have to do all those other things. You'll notice that I'm also named Patreon because we were doing an event for Patreon. We were doing there, and that was part of the impetus for me to do Zoom, was that I barely understood how Zoom worked, and I was like, I better figure this out. And so there was a mixture of, I really understood online events, and I knew that not many other people did. I didn't really understand Zoom, and I figured if I do it every day, it'll let me pick up speed. And then it just kind of took on a life of its own. Go ahead, Courtney, and then Phil.
What was your camera and lighting setup at that time, and how did it progress over the year?
It went through a lot of, my camera was, I think, just my webcam. I think at that point, it might have been, no, I think it was like it might have been a micro that I had. I did have a micro up there for a little while, a Blackmagic micro. and or not. I'm looking at it. I think it was more probably a C920 was there. And then the lighting, I had some lights laying around. I had some, what are they called? Scritty lights that I bought for $200 or something like that. And then, yeah, so I had, a couple lights really quickly on. I put up some NAND lights, the mix panel 60s. Then I switched to, I have some NAND lights now, but they're like the 100Bs instead of the mixed panels because they're larger sources. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I can't imagine what this last year would have been like without you having started this. And I really appreciate and thank you and everybody else who's here, and just say it made this 2020 COVID thing a lot less lonely, to know that there were everybody kind of going through it together. And regardless of the tech, I just really like the camaraderie that was built here and is built here. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, and I appreciate everyone coming and showing up and every day. Like, I get literally 365 days into it. There is no effort for me to get up every morning to hang out with everybody here. It's just, which I couldn't imagine. I've never done anything 365 times in a row, especially something that takes 3 or 4 hours. Chris.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm like a lot of people. I heard about it on Mac Break and then came in a couple days later. And while I haven't been here every day, it really has forced me to aspire to do better production. And by better production, I don't mean my stuff's great, because it's a year above where it would have been had I not been on the show.
Right. Yeah. No, when I think that, you look at the screen, we've all gotten a lot better. And I think that there's a lot of peer pressure, here to improve your look and feel and sound and everything else all the time. But you go to any other Zoom and you're just like, wow, let's it drops the cliff to other Zooms drops really fast. Go ahead, Chris. Fenwick.
Fenwick. Yeah, it's the Alex Lindsay guilt and shame technique. We measure time in minutes, but we measure life in moments. And 2020 was a weird moment to go through, for sure. And so many people would agree that this has been an anchor. It's been something that there's so little that we actually can count on.
Right.
This we could count on. And it was important for the moment.
And I think that I took it really seriously. I don't know how important it was to everyone else, but I took it really seriously that I started usually within seconds, but oftentimes within a couple minutes of every time thing that we have. Like, I run around sometimes in the morning going, oh, I got to turn this thing on by 5. And I feel like that certainty is important, to people to know that it's going to happen every day. And I really want to thank Phil and Bill and Chris Fenwick and other folks to make sure that it happened every day, because I couldn't be here every single day. And when I had stuff, they'd get these last minute calls sometimes in the morning. I can't make it. Can you fill in? And it was always one of them was always ready to jump in and make sure that the torch kept on going. So I really, really appreciate it.
How many days did you miss, do you think? It's got to be less than 10, right?
I think it was probably less than 10, maybe 10. There was like a couple times when there was like a week, or not a week, but like 3 or 4 days in a row that I missed around some big productions. But I don't think it was more than 15. It might have been more than 10, but yeah, it wasn't very many. And I felt like it was frustrating. Like, it was not like a relief to be not on the panel. It was oh my gosh, and I would listen to it on the outside and just be like, I want to answer that question, or I want to be part of that conversation. And it was very painful to take a day off, which is why I don't take very many off. It's because I hated being on the outside. Hasmukh.
Yeah, it's funny, a week after, if tomorrow is a year, a week after we had a grid view, I think Grant showed a screenshot or image of a grid view on the 2nd of April. In fact, I also have 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of April. I took grid views because I attempted to get onto the show, I think within a few days. In those days, we didn't do mic checks. We just went on.
Now, what day? That's from the 1st. That's from the very, yeah.
Yeah, my first one was about 3 or 4 days after we started. And I proudly yanked out my Audio Technica 2020 USB mic and I plugged it into the computer and I really felt very good about it. And then everybody just in a chorus, we can't hear you, we can't hear you. And so first time I figured out that the setting in Zoom is quite different to the setting in the computer. But I was so deflated. My God, I was finished. So I just watched the next few shows for about 2-3 weeks. And then we started talking about green screen and the background. And, you know, we were really big into big screen those days. Yeah. And so I went out, bought a green screen, brought out my Nikon camera, and I said, I'm going to show them. And boy, and that was really my entry into office hours.
Go ahead, Leo, and then Stuart.
So I think one of the key things to this about why this is working for me is that it's like open source in terms of the DNA behind it. You can see and you can repeat it, and you can take it away and you can use it and you can take some of the parts and elements from it. And I think that's really important to me because I look at how it works. I look at how people's screens are. I love the fact that the mic check people tell you what they're actually using, and you actually can get more information out than you know, at times you feel like you get a ton more out than you put in, but it's been great in that respect.
Absolutely. Stuart?
I'm just curious, and I know I was late to the party for when office hours started, but I'm curious as to how much longer than me Mickey has been involved. And I would like to point out that this really, the quality control for sound and the assistance in getting your sound right behind the scenes with messages in the Discord, Mickey is an unsung hero here. So I'll just point out a round of applause.
Well, not just the fact that the show doesn't happen without Mickey. Yeah. I mean, like it's Mickey's cutting the show, and then he's quietly improving all of our audio all over the world. Like there's this, the silent Mickey hand, just kind of pulling everybody's mics together. And you know, the funny thing is that in the early days, we couldn't get Mickey to turn his camera on. You know, Mickey would have his camera off, and I remember when we first turned it on, it was like a wide shot, and he was smoking, and you see these big puffs of smoke.
You don't want to see my picture. I'm just smoking.
Yeah, and everything else.
I think you cut back a little bit, Mickey. You cutting back on the smoking a little?
Not really, just not on air. So, but it was just a funny, you know, it is funny how everything has progressed, you know, like, you know, to where we are now. And I think a commitment to making I think that the commitment to making each other better and not necessarily making each other happy has helped. I mean, in the sense that we're always trying to push each other. You know, I think that especially before the show, during the show, we kind of go, okay, well, this is where we're at. But before the show, I think we're the most picky bunch of people. Like, you know, I get texts. I finally fixed it. You know, Chad was sending me these little screens, like, you have a little corner that's showing up over here. I think I got it fixed now. But people like worry about these little corners and little things. And I love that. I love that we're picky and we're trying to make it, you know, better. Go ahead, John Idelson, and then Grant. You're quiet, John.
I'm on panel 2 in case you don't see me.
Oh, there you go. Sorry. See you over there.
Now I'm here. Sorry about that. If I only knew how to use this technology. I have 2 comments and a question.
If you could find somebody, maybe your son could, like, you know, kids a lot of times know more about technology. Yeah, exactly.
First, I can say factually that office hours save people's lives through the knowledge and information that you transmitted. So it's not only us who have benefited. So a big thank you for that. The second is talking to Mickey. Mickey has helped me with so much audio. There are Oscars, you know, for best movies. I think we need to establish a Mickey for the best audio award.
That's good. That's good.
But the question for you, Alex, is when you started it, how long did you think it would last? And at what point did you realize this was not going to go away?
So I thought it would, I thought it could last forever. So I didn't start it not thinking that it would ever, I mean, I did. And the intensity was everyone's stuck at home right now. They have nothing else to do. If I'm going to fuse a community, you do it right now. Like it took me a couple of weeks to kind of figure that out, but I was like, I have to do it right now. Now, I didn't know if it would, and I was kind of non-committal about how long it would last, because I knew that there was a chance that it would last for a long time. But because I really missed the Pixel Core. Like I had built this huge community of 2,000 people in 40 countries that I got to hang out with all the time. And when I went to Europe, 30 of them showed up, and we would have dinners together and everything else. And so I missed that community, that global community that you just got to be part of. And I felt like Zoom was a great way to do that. But I didn't know if I could pull it off. Like, I didn't know if it would be enough people. I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if it would. And so I figured, well, we'll do this for 2 or 3 months, and we'll see if it can reach critical mass. But I can tell you the day that I knew that I couldn't. And the thing is, I had just started a new job. I had been essentially unemployed for a year. And, doing consulting for a big consumer company, but outside of that, I wasn't really, it was kind of in the sporadic thing. And, so I didn't know whether my job, the part of why I could do this was because, of COVID, because I had been doing 250,000 miles a year of travel, for a decade. And so I didn't know where, like, I always wanted to restart the Pixel Core, but I was like, how would I do that? I don't know where I'm going to be. And I have clients that want me to be suddenly in Budapest in a week, so I couldn't commit to it. So finally I knew I could commit to it. I could make this work. And so the day I can tell you, though, the day that I knew that I couldn't back away was the day we turned Discord on. Like, it was like, when everyone jumped in and the conversation started, I was like, okay, we're done. Like, I can't, like, what showed up for me is if I stop this, it will never start back up again. And this is the last time I get to do this at my age. Like I don't get to drop the ball on this many people, this committed to it, and ever expect to get it back again. So I knew that as soon as Discord turned on, and Phil and Chad and Ryan and were like, hey, let's do this thing. And I have to admit, I was a little like, I don't know if I'm really ready for that, because I knew that it would.
You were super leery. I remember that. You're like,
I
don't want to do
sneak it in a little bit behind your back.
That was kind of, but it was getting built up without, like, I was like, wow, it just popped right up. And I'm sure that they've been working on it for a while. So anyway, I was leery about it mostly because I knew that it was going to create this kind of more permanent setup. And I was leery about, that process. I didn't know Discord very well and everything else, but within a day or two of Discord turning on, I knew that we'll take this and run it as far as it can go. It might last a decade, but I also knew that I couldn't stop. Like, at that point, it has to happen every day. Like, it just, it showed up for me. Like, that was the day that it turned. Go ahead, Grant. Then Leland.
Yeah.
You're next, Leland.
So
you're not on the second page. You're still on my first page, Leland. Anyway, go ahead, Grant.
So as the first person to register for
Grant is the original, is the OG. Yeah. He's
OG. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those particularly, I think I did 90 days straight. And I mean, it was such a quiet time then. And I just loved every minute of it. And didn't when life started to get a little bit busier, it was so, I was trying to keep that record. And when I think of the record of not missing a time, I think of our friend Mike Andrews. And so it's good to remember Mike. We lost him, and that was really hard for us. And I think that actually was I felt like that was a defining moment for us, when we were like, we've lost a family member, and
it wasn't just that we lost someone who came all the time. He was so passionate and so much part of the community.
Well, he came out from his hospital room just to say, because he thought he was going to come back.
Mm-hmm. But that was the thing. I think that what it said to us is, the way that I'm feeling about this shows how important this whole thing is, and that we aren't just a bunch of geeks talking about some tech stuff online. We're friends, and when we lost someone, that showed it even more to us.
Yeah.
But it has been like, look, I've got an event that starts in 2 hours, and I haven't been to sleep yet, but I had to be here.
It's so great to have you. Yeah, no, absolutely. Leland.
Thanks for that, Grant, because that's where I was going. We've talked all about attendance and we've talked all about being here. Mike Andrews was the one individual who was here every day until the day he couldn't make it. And we also lost another individual during this process. We built a new company during this process, and we lost Michael McGee as well, who was our co-owner and partner over at Talent Pros Live. So would like to take, if we could, Alex, 30 seconds of silence for these two individuals, just to show some respect. I'd appreciate it.
30 seconds. It was an amazing thing. Like, I mean, just, it's great. It's quite a community. I mean, I've literally, I think, spent more time with everyone here than almost anybody outside of my family in my whole life. So, I mean, it's a crazy thing, that feels so connected to people, that I've never met in person. John, and then Chris.
Alex, I have a screenshot from March 27th if you want me to screen share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nikki. Thank you. I've been on since day one. This is the earliest screen cap I have, however. Look how blurry Grant was.
Well,
and skinny.
And skinny.
Yeah, exactly. We've all that part we haven't sorted out yet. We need to create a new office hours for working out.
I'll post that up in Discord.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely post if you have screen captures you captured from back then. Definitely please throw them into Discord. It'd be fun to watch. It's fun to look at. Go ahead, Chris Fritchie, and then Fenwick.
Yeah, I think the best piece of information I got from you guys was a system urgency. So I can't remember if you had started talking about this in early January or not, but on a whim right before January, I just bought some gear, and then I think I missed a few episodes or just watched or whatever. And I heard you and the rest of the panel say, you better buy stuff now because you're not going to be able to buy it in a month. So I bought a bunch of stuff. Of course, the boss called me and I just kind of justified it. And then about a month later, somebody else wanted to order something. You couldn't.
Right.
And ever since that, he's never questioned anything.
That's great. I need another camera. You should use that. You say we really need 4 more Blackmagic cameras. Go ahead, Fenwick, and then Kimbrough.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody recently about the depth of the connection.
Yeah.
Here at office hours, and they said like, really?
Right.
I mean, come on, really? I mean, are these like people you'd invite to your house? I said, oh, the invitations are already out.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, and it's astonishing. It's weird. I used to make fun of like the kids that like, I met a guy in the early 90s who had totally grown up on IRC.
Right.
And like he couldn't speak to a human being face to face, but he could type like the wind. And all of his friends were online. And I thought that was totally weird. Well, and now I'm like one of those weird people.
What's different is also is that number one is we've done a lot of it, but number two is because of the video, because it's Zoom. There was a lot of times where I really felt like I knew somebody over bulletin boards. Then you hang out with them when you went to like Detroit or something like that, and you'd be like, "Whoa, like that was not a good idea," And so, because who they were, who they were on, who they were online was so different from who they were in person. Whereas this is much closer to who, I mean, it's not who we are. It's a projection. It's always a projection of who you are. But at the same time, after so many hours of video, you feel like you know someone in a completely different way than you did, that you would over a bulletin board. Stephen Kimbrough?
I was just wondering if Carlita has a word for office hours.
No, that thing you do. I think that's mostly it. Are you doing that thing? So I think that's mostly it. I think it did work out part of what made it sustainable was the fact that I did it so early in the morning, because it's out of the way of my family, mostly my family, because I get up, it's so much earlier than they get up. It is out of the way of, I can still do my work and be at meetings and so on and so forth, is part of why. And it's why I did it that way, was to keep it out of there. So it's not, it doesn't have too much of an impact, other than she did give me a credit card that says, let's see here, hold on, to keep things straight. So my number isn't on it anymore, but
the numbers.
No, it doesn't.
Ready.
Yeah. No, it's but it says Alex Lindsay. Let's see if you can see it. Like, office hours. Like literally, I have my own bank account, and that's how she gives me my allowance. Of what I'm allowed to spend on office hours, which is, other, because I was just spending into things, buying things for it. She's like, I gotta, your Mac break money and everything else goes into that, and that's like my little place where I buy kit. You can tell how often I'm on Mac break, because there's a lot of upgrades.
Alex, if you set up a PayPal tip jar, you would be looked after for a very long time. And I know you don't want to do that, but you just know that.
Yeah, we were talking about it in the pre-show. So I am the thing though is I am putting together a nonprofit. The problem with me just setting up a PayPal is that it's a taxable event, and so suddenly I'd have to deal with. Basically, the impact of anyone giving me money would be 30% less than what they gave, right? I mean, that's how I look at it. Is like, sure, I could manage the taxes, but it would be 30% go somewhere else other than to what we want to do. So I'm working on building a nonprofit that will hold our stuff as a group, and when people, I know there's I get a lot of like, hey, when can I put money into it? And I just want to make sure that I had a proper container. Like, I've done a lot of things in a rush where things just kind of get done and I don't do it well. And so I just wanted to do, this is this little flower that I very much, love. And so I just kind of want to do everything just right with the flower. And so we're building a nonprofit that will hold that. And then as people put money into it, I don't need, currently don't need to make money doing it. So what I'm going to do is I want to build the ultimate infrastructure, and that would pay for the, eventually the web hosting and AWS and all the other things it takes to, and hardware and cameras. And, I sit inside of a stage the stage that I sit in, that our offices are in, 3210, is the perfect stage for us to do trainings, to do, R&D, we have a theater. So when we post COVID, there's 150 seats with a Dolby theater in the building. So, and I spent 2 decades trying to get into this building, like to do Pixel Core, and so we're, it's, the pieces are all kind of coming together. And so there will be an opportunity for people at some point to chip in so that we can buy all this hardware and set up all the stuff. And the goal is to keep on taking that R&D that we've been figuring out how to take it to the whole nother level, where I have this vision of doing office hours every day is like 20 or 30 people working on it in the back end, with like one person in the office, and a bunch of it's in AWS and a bunch of it's in the office. And it's all like this giant production. And we're using it as our training ground, to figure out for us to learn how to do it better, but also for us to build this giant workforce among our members that we all know that we can hire each other. Like, you always know that, I've got, 4 people that can do this in Spain and 1 person that can do it in, Budapest, that kind of thing, that can be interconnected, and we can do it, and so that's where I'm trying to get to. And so right now I'm working on the container, so make sure that it's just done well. That's all. But I'm not turning back now. we figured this out. Go ahead, Mickey, and then Ray, and then Matt.
Yeah, I think for me, this similar to a lot of people, I assume, started out as something to take our minds off what was going on when the whole pandemic started, like around this time last year. And it was definitely something that I finally, after like a couple of weeks of being stuck doing nothing, had something to look forward to every night, and get a routine back in and all that. And so since then, it's just been fun. The kind of people this community attracts have been, similar, like-minded people who are, forever curious, forever people who always just want to keep on learning. And yeah, like in terms of people thanking me for what I do, like for the community, it's just fun for me, and like I have to thank the pioneers, I guess. Like, the whole mic check thing, that's a Tucker thing. That's not my thing. The whole like so many other things that I do, I'm just carrying on. Like, the whole cutting the show, that's a Grant thing. It's just like Grant got work, got busy. Like I asked, like, hey, you want someone to take over? So I'm just carrying on what others have started.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this, as this day came, I was thinking about, like, what is the thing that kind of ties everybody together? And I think that the one word that probably describes our membership is curiosity. Like, we're not video people. We're not, I mean, we are, there's video people, and there's editors, and there's sound people, and there's web people, and there's business people, and there's event people, and we're all very different. But I will say that the people who tend to stay, the people who are curious, and I think that we could probably build anything around that we're just curious about things, like, and I think that's the thing but I was trying to think of a word, and I think that's the one that ties us most together. And media happens to be what we're talking about right now, but I think if we did a bread hour every week, we'd probably all be making bread and getting a lot bigger than we already are. Go ahead, Ray, and then Matt.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody. I'm a fairly recent comer to the group. Really enjoyed it. I met Alex many years ago with Leo.
In Vancouver.
And in Vancouver. And anyway, I just want to share with you one quick Ray story. I have a friend of mine who taught media in high school, and I was telling her all about this group. We produced a PBS program together. I was her technical advisor. Anyway, she said, "Oh, that's fascinating." I was telling her about some of the personalities that are in the group and so forth. And she said, "Well, what's the fee to join?" And I said, "Well, there's no fee to join, but I'm approaching spending 2 Mickeys on new equipment since I've joined."
Right. Yeah, the fee to join is that we're expensive bunch of friends. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Matt, and then Leo, and then Jan.
So I don't come on here often, but I definitely wanted to do.
Lost your audio's breaking up a little bit.
No, of course. Of course.
Zoom's been doing that to me all morning, so I can feel his pain.
Go ahead, Matt. Try it again. See if it works.
All right. I've got a Zoom quit on.
Nope, it's coming apart. It's interesting that both of you are close to each other geographically.
The client shuts right down, Alex, just so you know. It's literally giving us an error that says Zoom has quit working, report, and it does it like 3 times in a row. So, John, you might want to send that into support.
Yeah. Matt, try one more time.
Support.zoom.us.
We're going to try one more time. Hopefully it's working. So I just wanted to say thank you, Alex. I've been on and off at a
there's something very perfect about Zoom falling apart while we're doing a Zoom thing, and because it's just kind of like you swing with it. It was part of what we've done. We've had a couple of Zoom storms that we worked, but we had to have that happen at least once. Matt, maybe we'll come back to you in a little bit. Go ahead, Leo.
So taking that forward, exactly as you say, it's about the curiosity and understanding what people, I have a completely different skill set to a lot of people on here, although I actually have an engineering electronics background, but we all have that. And I think that's the point. I can't hold a candle to anybody on here on certain subjects. I shouldn't even be allowed in the room. But I am allowed in the room, and I'm allowed to be in the room, because I actually have some things that they don't know. And I think that's the bit that we give the, credit to you, Alex. You've always allowed people to come into the room and to get to their level. And when we push ourselves over the cliff that we shouldn't do because we're talking a load of whatever, you pull us back and get somebody in the room who actually can deal with it.
Well, and I think that one of the things that scares people off sometimes of joining the panel is like, well, the panel knows so much and I don't know those things. And my response is always, well, none of us know those things. There's no one of us in this panel that knows all those things. The reason that we all seem smarter than we are is that we are, somebody in the panel knows that answer. Like there's so many things that, there's so many things that I can't answer that all of you answer. you know, and so and there's something that, you know, that Mickey can answer that you know, Beju can't answer, but Beju has other things that he knows, and you know, so there's and I think that even the folks that don't, you know, that haven't done as much production or haven't as much background also bring that curiosity, and that curiosity is this little engine. It's the fuel that, you know, and so they're bringing, even for the people who are asking questions, which we have to get to soon. They're the fuel rods, you know, they're the people who bring in the energy into the process of asking questions and being curious. We would run out of things to talk about as a group if it wasn't for all the attendees who never show up at the panel. So even though they are not in this, you know, when I say you're the producers as attendees, you are the producers, you know, and this doesn't happen without the attendees, without the questions, and we have to get to them soon. Nick and then Greg. Yeah. And we'll go over a little bit. Sorry, for 1 year. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say that, you know, to Mickey's point, and a lot of others have been talking about it, like in sports, you want to play people that are better than you to get yourself better. Yeah. And that's what I feel like. I can't tell you how many Discord messages I'm getting about the clicking in my microphone right now. And so it's not only that we're playing with people that are better, but everyone is looking out for one another as well. Like, so that's in behind the scenes, people are like, hey, Nick, you got a clicking in your mic. I'm like, okay, I will fix it. But, you know, we're able to share that critique and that, you know, brutal review kind of thing. And we're here for it, you know, so I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, I think that that ruthlessness of making each other better all the time is important. Go ahead, Jan, and then Greg.
I just want to go on record and saying how much I appreciate what you've created. And I do one show a week, and it takes an inordinate amount of time. You're doing from 5 to 9 every day, Mondays, an hour and change, Wednesday's club. How do you do it? Where are you finding this time to put this together? And thanks for doing it. I really appreciate it. Also, I'll have to say, I'm probably the only one on the panel who's been kicked out twice, and I'm still back. So there you have it.
Go ahead, Greg. Oh, you're
okay. Yeah. Just quickly to Mickey's point. This was also the highlight of my day. This was a reason to get up, you know, and it's a little later in the day for me, but if I got a meeting request during this time, I would deny the meeting request. It conflicts with office hours. I can't do that. This is my research. I can't do that. And also to Leo's point, you guys have showed me how much I don't know. And you have no idea how valuable that is, because I know nothing about video, and you know, as Fenwick will attest, you know, sometimes I know nothing about sound. So, but the thing of it is that I feel like I'm getting more just through osmosis, just listening to you guys talk, and I'm starting to understand just a little bit more, you know, each time. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't do the pie thing. I can't, you know, the trainings, I'm not with it. I don't have time to do the homework in front of the deal. So I just have to kind of watch. Oh yeah, that looks interesting. Okay, well, I'll figure that out someday when I'm retired. You know, but it's been just a fantastic experience, and this is, you know, I brag about you guys to all of my friends, my professional Zoom group. You know, we do it this way, and we do it this way, and we do it this way, and you know, I'm constantly badgering people about their sound, about their cams, about all this. You guys are going to have to get this together, because you know, this isn't going away.
Well, and you know, it's why we. I think that it's why we can do it for hours, is because we've picked at it. I think we understand that you can't have a conversation for 4 hours a day if everybody's got bad audio and bad video and bad connections, and you know, all those other things are all things that you can't. The reason this sustains and the reason that it works is specifically because we brought our A game, you know, to the shows. And when someone comes in with really bad audio, it's always like, and even now that so many of us have radio level mics, even little mics that were great when we first started, you're always like, I wonder if I should just send them a mic. Like, let's figure out a way to send that person a mic so it warms up a little bit. Go ahead, Jeff, and then Victor.
Greg, I hear you about the meetings. It's been killing me that this semester my classes have conflicted, especially with Tuesday audio day. So I changed my class times in the fall, moved them later in the day so I could be here for office hours.
Well, now I better keep it going. Jeff's moved his class times. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Stephen, my family just calls it the panel. And Chris, yes, you are all my friends. And yes, if I get to traveling again, I'm coming to visit all of you. I'll be knocking on your door. If you are in South Carolina, come on by, share a meal, have a beer. You're all welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be when things blow over, we'll figure out some way that we can do an event at 3210 or at my house or at something where we really have a big get together. We'll have to figure out how we do hybrid though. Not everybody will be able to come. I don't know what to do. I'll have to do the one thing I told no one to do. Go ahead, Victor, and then Tony. You're still silent. I can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, there we go.
I learned something how to unmute a mic. No, thanks to everybody for letting me trudge along with you in the trenches to try to get, better at my craft, and then allowing me to hopefully share some of that success with you by failing forward a little bit every time. You guys are an awesome group. The capper to it has been putting together of the band. It's an amazing, behind the scenes exercise with some people that are so dedicated, and it's so much fun. So thank you for providing the vehicle for Sanity this year.
And one of the things I think is so much fun is how we've all watched each other get better. Like everyone comes on a little rough, and then all of us, including me, all of us have just keep on looking at it, and then somebody else comes on like Ken has brought us all like, oh, we all have to ramp up a little harder now because Ken just keeps on playing a bigger game than we were playing. Go ahead, Tony.
First, I want to say that there's so many things that I could say about office hours that I cannot take that time here. But what I will say is that regular guys have a place here too. Mm-hmm. And I just want to share a quick short story about my first experience with office hours. And everybody knows that I came on and I didn't have good lighting, good computer. Everything was kind of a mess, but you guys were extremely welcoming. And I would always get on and I would always be apologizing. And Mike Andrews started interacting with me first on chat, and then he started calling me. And he would say, stop apologizing. Yeah. You're bringing something to the table. Stop apologizing. Yeah. So I'm going to end this conversation with, I am currently wired. Everything is wired. Everything is Ethernet connected. I am using 2 cables that were sent to me by Mike Andrews in my setup. I now have Wi-Fi 6 enabled in my house. And so with that, I'm going to stop talking, but I just want you guys to know that you are extremely welcoming. It doesn't just exist while we're on camera. There's so much positive reinforcement that goes on in the chat. So thank you so much. And I've shared with you guys that I was kind of, during the process of office hours starting, I was dealing with cancer treatment. And I've been able to get through that cancer treatment. And I thank you guys for your support and encouragement. It's been an uplifting experience. I'm actually helping a small church be do their ministry. So it's only because of your support and everything that you guys have done. Thank you so much.
And I just love your tenacity, Tony. I mean, you just come on and you're just like working through this, and you're going to add this next piece, and you're going to add this next piece. And the Raspberry Pi thing was amazing. Like, to have you just like nugging through this thing and figuring it all out, because it is, it's complicated. And people that are, so Tony, like when you join, when we have members that are, they add the energy, as production people, we can spend an entire day complaining about our projects. like we're very jaded. This client or this thing was crazy, and we should have done this, and we should have done that. And it's so easy to get lost to lose the magic of what we're doing. That we're connected to we're connecting people to each other, and we're doing all this stuff. And I think that you get lost in that process. And I think that folks that are getting started, keep injecting this newness, and this energy and this excitement into what we do that makes it more real for all of us. Chris, and then Ken, and then Keenan.
I don't know where John Preto digs this stuff up, but 37 years ago, I don't know if you remember what happened on that day in 1984, Alex.
I don't.
It was when the Breakfast Club met for detention on this day, March 24th. And we were saying, it's like, it's almost like this band of misfits here, this Breakfast Club. And I said to John, I go, I don't know which one of us is Molly Ringwald, but and he popped this thing up, and it's a cool group, and I can't believe that graphic, March 24th, 1984.
I do think about, there are times when I think about Shakespeare, of all things, like of this, we happy few, we band of brothers and sisters. For he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he ne'er so vile. This day will gentle his condition. And the men abed in England now will think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhood cheap, whilst anyone speaks who fought with us on St. Crispin's Day. And I think about that line, because it's just like, there's times when I look at what we're doing, what someone else is talking, and I just think, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers and sisters, that are doing this crazy thing, and I do think that a decade from now, we're going to look back at this first year, that couldn't have happened in any other situation, as this kind of fusing moment, in this process. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, it's well, apart from my wallet, which is I don't think we'll ever forgive you. I did manage to dig out one of the first settings. I think that's before you worked with me on the laps, and
it was driving me crazy. I was like, yeah. I know what kind of camera he has, and I was like, Ken, exactly. let me have control. Let me have control of your camera.
And yeah, thank you.
Well, you went from you corrected really fast. Like I fixed the camera, but then you just took it to a whole nother level. Like I just feel like I'm now like designing a set, and I told Fenwick that I was like, you're gonna have to help me build my set, because Ken has moved the game. He just moved the whole finish line like out like 6 miles. So it's great. Yeah, Keenan.
So you guys talk about how much money we spend. I'm an outsider to the group, and I've been here since you started on YouTube, and I feel like you've saved me money, because as a guy that doesn't do this and doesn't know what mix pre's are, and I know what Blackmagic is and all that, but a lot of your talents are telling me what not to buy, or telling me, hey man, this is what you want to buy. We've all used it, and we have that secret weapon with Guy Cochran and his team. They've helped me with shipping equipment all the time. So to have not only your ruthless review of our stuff, but your recommendation on how I can be better, and then a supplier to say, hey, by the way, call Guy, he'll take care of you. And right. I'm a little guy. I'm one emergency manager in Illinois, and to be able to have Guy Cochran's store behind me, B&H, some of those big marker techs, they don't care, but Guy and I Facebook message stuff all the time, and to have that kind of stuff, it's invaluable, and you actually save me money. I'm probably over a Charles or two. I don't even know, but I haven't wasted funds that I bought a MixPre. You guys recommended, hey, Mickey and I talked about it at length, that get the MixPre 3. Just do it.
Well, and I think that there is this thing that not only we're curious, but it keeps on we're accumulating wisdom, not just like things that it's not just reviews. And the value of getting questions over and over again is they keep on evolving, but we keep on deepening our opinions about, like, okay, as a group, or shaking up our opinions. That's not really, we thought that was, we thought that the pile was the future, and then we decided it was the Pulson, and then we decided it was the, but it was over, but we all figure that out together, which I think is just fascinating. Chris, and then Jeff, and then Hasmukh. I know.
Yeah,
by the way, if you asked a question, you may have to come back to it if you have to go somewhere. We will get to the questions. I'm going to let this one run a little over. For those of you who can stay, go ahead, Chris, and then.
Yeah. So this one's for John in Fenwick. So this was my background last year. I don't know if it was on the exact day, but when I had the green screen.
Right. Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff, and then Hasmukh, and then Matt. Matt will give you another shot, and then Marty.
Keenan, I totally agree. This saved my university a ton of money in doing things right the first time. I only have one correction for you. You are not an outsider.
Yeah.
You are part of us.
Yeah. And it was so exciting to have you come in and show what you were doing, which was inspiring. Like, I'm still looking at my van at my home. Like, how am I going to do what Keenan's doing, in my van? Like, how do I rig this thing up? So what was great is have you just come out of nowhere for us, because you're not on the panel as often, but you're definitely, definitely part of the family.
And the best part of office hours is I came on the Facebook portal and didn't even turn my camera on. So I've hyped it that I have the 6K on. When I'm ready, I'm going to get on the panel and I'm going to put my best foot forward. And then the one time you put me on the panel, I'm on a portal with no video. So I feel like, my first chance to make my first impression, thank God Bill was there to say, you're doing fine. Cause I probably would have had an aneurysm.
And all of our first impressions are all that way. Like, all of us start rough, and then we just keep on making our, and that's the best part, is that you get, I think one of the coolest things is watching someone join the panel, and then they just slowly start, getting better. And it doesn't always mean that they're spending money, but they're always getting, they're refining it a little bit and putting it all together as being part of that group. Hasmukh, and then Matt, and then Marty. And then John.
I do feel the burden of being the only guy from this continent that has consistently attended all these
worked
meetings.
On that. I have a hard time.
Yeah. But that burden I express by talking about office hours to just about everybody I meet. Yeah. And often, even at social functions at home, I'm talking about office hours. And my wife says, can we change the subject? Is there something else you can talk about? So today's meeting with the NGO was quite typical. So I went to meet them, and they do training, and I was telling them about office hours and how office hours has influenced me. And I talk about how much time I spent on office hours. And I say, it's over 1,000 hours. And they look at me like I'm completely nuts. So, Alex, the only certificate of competency I have is my medical degree at the back. So we need a certificate of competency of the elite in office hours, so I can put my card down and I don't have to validate my experience and so it's really, I think all of us have turned, like others have said, we've turned into promoters of what we learn from here. We share it with everybody else, and we just make the whole place a bit better. But my continent is so big that I need many more soldiers.
Well, yeah, and we need to figure that. I mean, obviously, Africa is very near and dear to my heart, and so I definitely want to find ways to improve the impact that we're making, to doing this stuff, and in Africa, in Rwanda, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Nairobi, and everywhere. Yeah, it's I don't know. Matt, go ahead.
All right, one more try.
Marty. Oh.
So it's the soon as the 720 or the 1080 loop happens. Let's see.
You're good now.
Seems like I'm good now. All right. So thank you again, Alex, for the last year. It's been incredibly educational. I did a digital first meeting 2 weeks ago for a customer. Took a lot of convincing to have a digital first. So all the presenters were in the room and cameras and a wall of monitors. And it was an investor day for this company, and their stock went up 10% after the event. And the comments that were coming back from investors was it was the best investor day they've ever attended ever anywhere.
That's amazing.
That says it all. And it's all mostly because of you, my friend.
Well,
so thank you.
It really is because of everyone here. Like you
started it.
I started it, but I think that there is it's the magic of it is everybody. It's really, I'm fortunate to have started it, but and I think that I think I was fortunate to have done this a couple times and known how I wanted to structure certain parts, like clean show and the way we approach it and those types of things. But what made it magical was everyone who showed up, and it's just such an honor every day to hang out with everybody here. Marty?
And it's this sense of community and accomplishment that people have been able to attain as a result of this community. It's been amazing. I heard about office hours from somebody who mentioned it during a webinar and talked about the mic check that happens before. and
you're like, you have to be somewhere. Anybody who's doing a mic check, you got to at least look at it once.
I got to be there. Yeah, I got to see how they're doing this. And I've turned a bunch of people onto this show who have watched and I see them asking questions and working on that and I started working for myself. I haven't been on staff anywhere in like decades. I started working for myself and came out of broadcasting and recording and installation work. And I've been a lone wolf. I'm a one-person business. I don't have a staff, and so this being a part of this is incredibly rewarding and satisfying. But it's not just personal. It's like the office hours community has spawned so many other communities, the AV Tech Talks and others, and Leo's show and my show, and we're all this bunch of related communities that are all existing together as a result of. It's like one of the silver linings of this whole pandemic experience is this whole new sense of community. All these people that I've been able to meet and now have this relationship with, whether it's personal or business or both. It's just wow.
For a while, he now calls it office hours, but for a while, Mark, my boss would call it your media mafia. Who's your media? Like, can you go ask someone in your media mafia? Because I think it was because of I said, oh, we got to get some brios in here or some 920s, whatever. But I got a guy in South Africa that'll send them to us at DHL and he's like, how do you do this? Like, it's like this crazy connection. I got a guy. He's going to throw him on the plane. We're going to send them in small packages to make sure that they get through the border, anyway, so John Edison.
I'll make it brief. The Monterey Convention Center would not have a project if it weren't for office hours. And the manager of the center, was, how did this happen? And it's office hours. So you have an invitation. We're going to be able to travel at some time. Yeah. Come visit Monterey, and the secret word to get into the convention center, to get the tours, just say, I'm from office hours.
Oh, that's great. Very good. Jeffrey, and then John Preto, and then Peter.
So I took a screenshot at the beginning of this thing, but I think we should take a official picture before too many more people start to leave.
Yeah, let's do it.
If we're up for it. So yeah. So if everybody could look at the camera, we will do this. I got to get to the right here.
Wait. Tucker raised his hand. We got to include Tucker. Hold on.
Oh, bring Tucker in. Yeah, absolutely.
Hold on. Bring Tucker in.
Talking about, I've got a guy. That's Tucker. I just set up a whole thing with Unity. He did it. It just made it so amazing.
Michael Fraley's raising his hand. Let's bring Michael in for the if you're a regular on here and you want to be in just for the call, just for the picture.
Last photo.
Raise your hand. I can't. Let's see.
It's a shame we don't have Jason here as well.
Jason Robertshaw. He just
Jason Beige.
Talak just raised his hand. Jason just.
Let's break Zoom.
Give Tony
Can we
Robbins.
can
a
we
run for his
bring
money.
A Mitchell's in but leave the camera off?
No, he's got to turn his camera on.
No.
If he wants to be in the photo, he's got to turn the camera on. That's the game here. Chuck Wojak, that'd be good. Chuck, go ahead, come on in.
There's John Pruitt. Sorry.
Paul Wallace is out buying another microphone, I guess. Huh?
He's like, he needed to get just the right one for the show. He was here earlier too.
Can we have something waving in the corner of sky? Just
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think we've got. I think this is going to be the group photo. So, everyone, get ready.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2. There's one, and let's take a. It didn't work. Let's do it again. 3, 2. There we go. Let's
Great.
do a fun one. Can we do a fun one too?
Sure.
I think your flash didn't
Okay.
go off.
How many pages is
Darn it.
There's no flash.
All right, fun one in 3, 2. There we go.
Great. Awesome.
How are you doing all these pages? Because we got a huge panel here.
I got
49.
It's 40. We still had a couple, and I was able to move it down to my WLM and my DVE store right at the very bottom, the bottom row. So I got the. So it's good. Anyway, open. Oh, we have to take one more because Paul got here. He finished buying his new mic, and now he's ready to go here. So hold on, we'll do one more here. One more for Paul.
One more. In 3, 2. There we go.
Great. That's great.
Oh, did you just
If
put
only
Mike
we knew-
Anderson up there, Leland?
If only we knew somebody who would be able to take a composite picture and put some other headshots in it or something. I mean, none of us have got those skills.
Where would we
They have
find
this
somebody
thing
who
called
knows
Photoshop,
image
you know?
processing?
Do we have any? So I think we should move to the questions because we've been working through this. These poor folks have all of our producers have been sending us things to talk about, which we may have covered some of. Which John Preto, one more John Preto, and then we'll move to the questions.
Remember in math class, a train leaves Petaluma at 20 meters per second, and a train leaves Novato at 140 meters per second. In about a year and a half. In about a year and a half or so, we'll have overcome TWIT in episodes. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, we're moving fast. Yeah, there's something, like Fenwick had brought it up, and I brought it up a couple of times, is just the acceleration. Like what you see right now in these windows is this really fascinating acceleration of a community. Because if you did this once, like most people would do this once a month, like as a user group, or they would do it once a week, maybe, but that would be crazy. So doing it every day means that we're basically going, 50 times faster than a weekly show. It's just an incredibly, we're 5 or 6 times faster actually because of the days, but it would take us 6 years to get to do this weekly, 6 or 7 years to do it weekly, and we did it monthly. If it would be. Our lifetime, our professional lifetime, it would take to do it if we did this every month, to get to this, level of connection and where we are. And so I think that the daily thing has been really interesting. Go ahead, Mickey, and then we'll go to the questions.
I think above all of the tech talk and the equipment and all that, I think I was talking to someone last week, I forgot exactly who, but we were talking about how this community has I think created some friendships that might be lifelong friendships. I would sometimes reply to some people in the morning when I get up, and it's like sometimes I'd send a message reply to a message from Fenwick, and then he'd immediately reply with a Zoom link. First thing in the morning, even before I've gotten coffee, talk to Fenwick for 15 minutes. And I think there are a bunch of people on this panel that I've been able to get that sort of relationship out of, and it's I don't think anywhere else online, at least, I would be able to get that.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that it's such what I'm excited about is so far where we've gone and then where we're going to go, and knowing that we're going to build these friendships with people all over the world. I think it's going to get to a point in another year there'll be very few countries that we would normally go to that we don't know somebody. Like we don't have a connection, in that country. I don't know what we're going to work on mapping it at some point, rough mapping just to get a sense of where everybody is. It was really inspiring. We did a thing with the Pixel Core where we had everybody put in their coordinates and round them off. So it wasn't like their exact house. And you just got to see this. I had this map that I printed on my wall for a long time, just visualizing where everybody was. And it was just kind of cool. And so we'll work on that. But I think that it is, I do think that when COVID pulls back and we're able to travel, there's going to be a lot of us that just end up having beers in different places. I can tell you, as someone who had Pixel Core, it was all the time. Like I would always have, like I knew people in Sydney and in Melbourne and but also in Tokyo, and people would show up from, whether in Budapest is another good one, and Paris. Like there'd always be somebody that was from Pixel Core that I could run into and hang out with, and it just gave us some inside person that could help with something, and or just hang out. And so I think that we're going to get more and more of that. It's going to be I think it's going to just get deeper as COVID lights up and lightens up and we start moving around. We're just all going to get to know each other even better. Okay, let's go to the questions. Sorry for everyone who's been sitting there waiting for us to actually go through it. Maybe we've covered some of it. Go ahead, Bill.
We definitely have. Jim Abraham's fact question was pretty generic, and I think we've pretty much covered that, which was how did it start?
I mean, the one thing that was we did start streaming it. I begrudgingly started streaming it and recording it to YouTube. It was definitely like a long campaign by a lot of people to have me do it. Now, there were a couple reasons for that. One is that I wanted it to feel free, like this kind of free conversation that we could have, that I didn't want it to be bunged up with worrying about it being up there all the time, and there have been a couple that got taken down because it's like, oh, I said too much, or I did something else, and, or Jeffrey will cut something out because we said something that would, mostly some secret that probably shouldn't have said. So anyway, those have been, that was what I was concerned about. The other thing is that I knew that if we didn't reach critical mass, if everyone just time shifted it, we would never build this, right? We would, there wouldn't be enough people. There actually has to be enough people to ask the questions and enough people to answer the questions. And so if the panel gets too small, or the number of viewers gets. And so when we started streaming it, it was a reflection of how many people were actually showing up. And I knew that we could afford to let people time shift it and would still, I was actually pretty frightened, to be honest with you. When we started streaming it, I was a little concerned that the whole thing would just fall apart, And so, and with something that is working so well, you worry all the time about changing anything. Like you just go, and this is why people didn't change events for a long time, is this works, and it's working, and you want to keep on evolving, but you have to be very careful. You don't know exactly what ingredient really makes this work. Like we have some ideas of what those ingredients are, but you have to be very careful about pulling ingredients really quickly. You pull one, that's why one of the reasons we move so slowly, in addition to the fact that it's not my full-time job, is that I'm always afraid if I pull this out, I want to pull it out slowly and then look at it and see what happens and let it kind of mesh back in and then pull another thing and be very careful with it. So streaming was something I was definitely concerned about. Next question.
Dan Huber of Erie, Pennsylvania, best office hours moment. And he says his is Sky folding his background, which I will never forget because I was a part of that.
Grant.
So my moment actually, and it actually is like the next question as well, is if I had to pick one moment, it's this time. So this was back in April when Blue Melnet came on. We did a second hour, and he talked about how he had converted an event that was 300 people in person and made it 1,000 people online, and did it all in Zoom. And we were like, what?
Yeah.
1,000 people in Zoom.
Yeah.
And, because it was like doing it across multiple, I think he had kind of 8 Zoom meetings that he was connecting together so he'd do all the breakout rooms. And so I quizzed him, I asked a couple of questions. We connected after that. And we've now founded a company together. So when I say that office hours has changed my life, it's literally changed my life. And so we can say that it's a memorable moment for sure.
That's amazing. Ken?
For me, was that the Raspberry Pi building, but more so than that, when the community that came together when helping Tony build his, and then right at the end when he built it, I almost choked up in terms of the emotion that kind of everyone kind of pulling together and Tony getting his Raspberry Pi working, and then he was going to use it in the church. That to me sums up office hours.
Peter, and then Leland.
I just think the improvement of everyone's, I guess, audio and video, myself included. But in terms of favorite moments, I was going to bring it up before, but just, I don't know how many of you remember Slashdot and the Slashdot effect, but Office Hours now has the Office Hours effect with regards to hardware, and I reckon that's hilarious because we sell out things.
Well, and also that one of the moments that I really enjoyed was the fact that we got Universe to support Zoom OSC so quickly, like the ability to just point a whole bunch of people at something really fast and have it all happen was interesting. Yeah, who was next? I call you Leland.
That'd be me. I have two moments that I really cherish. One of them was obviously just the fact that we're all here, but and I do want to thank, because I only have a few minutes. I have a show coming up, so if you don't mind, Alex, I'll give my thanks real quick. You know what this has done for me. I came here very early on and learned a lot of stuff from everybody here. So I give you thanks, but I give the credit to the success to the group, honestly, as a community, because it was those people that I connected with. My only regret here right now is that I don't have enough time to meet with everyone. And I really wish I could get to know some of these other people that are on Discord and in this panel itself today that I don't know and have never met. So feel free to reach out to me. But one of my favorite moments, honestly, for me was when Graham Kerr came on the show, because he was a long time, just a fond memory of my childhood, learning how to cook and watching videos and seeing him on TV. Was to be able to get and see him and talk to him on screen was a wonderful thing. The other was the jaw-dropping moment when Grant opened his mouth and sang. So that gives me
absolutely. So the music, the remotes, like the remote thing, I didn't see it until the night before. I mean, with both the one with Grant and Victor, and then the remotes, and I was just like, holy smokes, we've gone to a whole different, some other level. Go ahead, Guy.
I think when Phil Langer was doing a demo and he was talking about the wedding series that him and Leland were working on, and his picture, we were in a 360 meeting, 360p, low resolution standard def meeting, and all of a sudden he popped into high def. And I was like, what the? And so the meeting just all of a sudden took on this HD look. And I think it was Grant said, oh, he must be using a Zoom room, or somebody came in with a Zoom room, and it sent me on this quest. And then I built one and brought it into the panel. And then Alex goes, now you have to come in every day with that Zoom room to bump us to 720p. So every day that computer right there came in for like 200 episodes to bump it up. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, amazing. Matt, and then Stuart.
So every story needs a villain, and I miss Colin, because I used to really enjoy the banter between Colin and just about everybody else on the panel.
I invited him, but he's sleeping.
Oh, too bad. I miss the villain, but they were my favorite moments. They really were.
They were not my favorite moments. Stuart.
I have two moments. One I'll come back to was today, but not the panel today. But the first moment for me was actually turning the camera on for the first time and being accepted by a group straight off the bat, no questions asked. That's how welcoming this group is to everybody who comes in. Now, the second moment that happened today was checking my email and finding a reply from the stereoscopic camera lens manufacturer saying he'd gotten multiple emails that we sent out the other day. There's the proof that it works, that office hours has an effect.
If we, I will say that we have some effect on the industry right now. when office hours is 10 times bigger than it is right now, when we've got 35,000 people on the mailing list, when we've got, 3,000 people showing up every day for this, that's the number that where we start just moving the industry wherever we as a group have decided we want to move it to. And we as a group have coalesced around it intelligently and said, hey, let's move the world this way. And because, imagine getting 2,000 or 3,000 in 10 minutes of something. Most developers will pay attention. Most industries will pay attention when we're able to organize as a group and then move as a group. I think it's a really fascinating model. We saw this in PixelCore when we were at 2,000 and we'd all move quickly. You could get a lot of things done, and we can open up a lot of doors, and we can open up a lot of opportunities for all of us and for the rest of the world if we keep growing. Jan, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Really quickly, the band, when that, I wasn't there, and all of a sudden I saw that office hour band, it blew my mind. And as a generalization, all the individual aspects you brought in, like Mimo Live, OSC, Resolve, you name it. I mean, Steve Powers with Final Cut, all of those things are real highlights, but the band to me, far superior, how they put everything together from such a remote location, and it came out so well.
And for me, one of them was also getting Brian Vander Ark to show up. But Brian Vander, I just out of a lark just emailed him, went to his website and said, "Do you want to show up?" And I'm a big fan of VerBpipe, and so it was just funny to have an artist come on and play, and then have it grow into the remotes and everything else, and so it was, and I think we'll come full circle. I did ping him, and he's totally down for whatever we want to do. So we do a song with him. Go ahead, Andrew.
A few things. One is I was under the mistaken impression that the only reason I was showing up a year ago, when I started a year ago, was to learn more. What I realized more recently was what I was really doing was building relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, duh, there's that. Obviously, my favorite moments too, also getting to be in a band again. But one thing that really stood out for me was I'm in this other group called the Tempo Think Tank. And they were doing a Zoom thing, and I had mentioned to them about office hours a number of times, and also the Zoom test kitchen. And on one of their shows where they were focusing on learning Zoom, Benjamin shows up, Jeff Ringman shows up, Ed Willick shows up, and I realized in that moment, like, oh, with just a little bit of nudging, here's a circle of 3 different groups, and it kind of blew my mind.
It is becoming kind of like when we go to each other's events and everything else, it's kind of like the posse, like we're all going to show up and like when we had the one of the events in the fall, and a bunch of us showed up and started asking questions. I knew it was going to turn out because we just had a bunch of our own folks, our people were in the chat, Jeffrey and then Bill, and then we really will move on because otherwise we'll do this all day, which I have
Two super quick ones. One good, one not so good, but turned out to be good. First one was when we brought Makana online and started using that and shown that we could actually do more, even though we had Zoom. The second one was when Zoom had the complete failure, and we ended up having to move office hours to, what was it, Meet or whatever it was.
Yeah.
We showed that we could actually move our group in a quick and easy manner and continue to do a show and have the show go on, basically.
And I will say it also really outlined for us why Zoom is winning, because it was horrible. The Meet was horrible. Anyway, Bill.
For me, the one outstanding moment of all of them was the almost crisis that was Grandma got run over by a reindeer, because I had barely gotten an idea where the controls were, and Alex got kind of sandbagged by thinking he was going to do the show and then having to be there.
Right.
And if it wasn't for all the support on the back end, I mean, that is absolutely impossible. And if it wasn't for Mickey and Alex communicating with me, it would have been a massive failure. Right. And to have that much adrenaline coursing through you, and then to have these people coalesce to say, we'll be here. We'll be here. Just get through it. We'll be here. It was fabulous.
Absolutely. Let's go to the next question.
David Brady in New York says, is there a blooper reel?
No blooper reel. There isn't that many bloopers. Like there really isn't.
Just tune in any day.
And every day has some mild
Mic
level
check.
of a mic check is probably you probably make all the bloopers out of the mic check. Yeah, exactly. Next question.
Comes from Juan Robles, who asks, congrats on the first year. What are the top 5 things you know now that you didn't know then, I guess, which weren't known then?
That you could buy a microphone for $10 that would solve like 80% of people's problems. Like what? Like it was just like $10. And so I think that was definitely that was one for me. Go ahead, Leland.
One thing for me was that we discovered there's kind of a disconnect between the AV guys who did physical events and the people who've been doing virtual streaming and stuff for a lot of years. And that merge of things that came together was something that kind of, I didn't expect it to be a competing, type of process, but it really was, because there was the old school way and the new school way. And so by combining those two ideas, we discovered new ways to do things. And I think that's the one thing we should all remember, is that there's always more than one way to skin a cat. So that's one thing that I've learned over the process, is there's 10 different ways to do things.
Yeah, for me, it's not one thing. It's the fact that we just keep on generating all this knowledge. Like we just kind of know, again, I feel like it's almost generating wisdom as opposed to in specific pieces of information, is that we all kind of have coalesced around a bunch of things that I didn't think about before, but I don't know. There's tons of new things, but yeah, go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, the big light bulb went off for me when Jeff Keithley was showing, I believe it was Sienna for the first time, and the little pop-up came up that looked like an ATEM in the cloud, and it just, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, this is the future. And so thankful for that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
Liberty White from Atlanta, Georgia says, how did the original crew begin? Was it an email invite to some friends or something else?
I think I tweeted it out. I think that was it. I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Twitter is kind of the one social network that I keep, because I've got, there's a lot of people following, and I know that, that, and they put up with me, the people that are following me, because I don't really try to try to keep my Twitter followers. I just say whatever I'm going to say, and then they either leave or they stay. And so those are the ones that are willing to stay. And so, I go, my Twitter following goes up and down by hundreds every month. So, I make some people angry anyway. So, yeah, I think I just tweeted it out. I think that was it. I might've talked about it on Mac Break at some point, so I think it was Mac Break and I think I sent an email out to like the last of my Pixel Core, like Pixel Core people that I had emails to. I was like, hey, by the way, it'd be really fun to have you guys, jump in. This is going to be the next time I try this. I might have waited a little while on the one to the Pixel Core members, because I wanted to make sure it was actually going to work. Hosmuk.
Yeah, I picked it up on Twitter first, but then I did get a mail from Pixel Core as well.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned it on Mac Break much, much later.
Yeah, I think there was definitely like let's see how, I didn't want to commit to anything. And, I kind of, very carefully was putting out just this, because I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know how long it would do it or whatever, but I think we're now past that. Next question.
Nick Justitian, our friend in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is in with open question to all panelists. What's the most interesting purchase you've made as a result of participating in office hours?
Go, Jeffrey.
Had to build a home kit, and of course learning from everybody else on how they were building their remote type systems, that it helped me in the purchases that I made. And we've had we don't do Zoom style on that remote kit. It's just basically record, but we've got some great recordings off of that, and so I'm really happy about that. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Tony, and then Ken.
Everything. But if I had to say one thing, I would say it's really between the ATEM Mini and the Mac Mini.
Right. Yeah. All right. Ken, and then Stuart.
Yeah, it would be the same. But be the ATEM. ATEM is the key piece.
Stuart.
Actually, This thing right here, the microphone. I've never had any interest in being on-camera talent. I was always happy being the live director or switching the cameras. And to actually have to go out and get a microphone to be speaking and be heard in public, it was a startling change.
Nick, and then Ray, and then Guy, and then Sky.
So I bought a house.
There you go. That's an interesting one.
It was,
based on office hours.
Based office hours factored into the decision process. So we managed to find a house that was fully wired Cat 6, Cat 6A. It had to have a finished carpeted basement for, a good, decent studio space. I mean, those things would not have been as great a factor had it not been for office hours. So there's mine.
And I just want to tell you, Nick, how great it is to have you here. Nick Grant is the OG, but Nick is the OOG. OOG. Nick was, when I talk about 270 people and 27 teams, Nick was one of the directors. So he had team leaders of each one of those teams reporting back to him, sitting over top of lots and lots of people and dealing with the chaos of doing what we're doing. But he started just learning in Pixel Core and then did that and then worked on movies, and it's just so much fun to have you here, Nick. So anyway, thanks.
Thanks.
It's great to see you every time you show up. Ray, and then Guy.
Positively, my most interesting purchase, and there's been quite a few. There's a 6K Pro coming tomorrow, but the most interesting purchase was the Mix Pre. I dived into that thing, and the number of different configurations. I don't think many people are beginning to explore all the ways to configure that thing. And I want to thank Mickey. Mickey has come to my rescue many, many times, and really appreciate his help. And the main thing is I really have fun playing with the Mix Pre and learning all the configurations.
Absolutely. Yeah. Guy, and then Sky.
Yeah, it's this label maker that's now labeled. It's the Bluetooth Brother P-Touch little label maker that you type it on the phone and out it comes with a label.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Sky.
I'm going to make sure I don't blow out the system. Looks like I'm good. The whole Blackmagic end-to-end flow of capture, ingest, edit, and export is kind of magical, and really flipped my experience with all of the other disparate different pieces of gear that you had to band-aid and cobble together. So the whole Blackmagic workflow has been pretty magical to me.
Keenan, and then Talak.
I think the funniest purchase is everything I can't buy because you sell out Amazon. I try to buy a $10 microphone and they're already sold out, and it was minutes.
Right.
This group has sold out all this fun stuff in minutes. So thanks for selling it out.
Yeah. Go ahead, Talak.
A little concerned about my level. Are we okay?
Yeah, a little low. That's fine.
A little low. Okay. So I have been wanting to get a way to capture video for my projection work for a long time, and I was really afraid of purchasing something. I purchased something a while back and it got stolen. So, I was like really tentative, and then bringing myself into this community and talking with Guy, where, you can't go to B&H. In B&H, you go to B&H and they say, well, buy this thing now, and then you never hear from them again. But I was able to have a conversation. I was able to have a conversation in here and also see the results of it. And I really, really, really appreciate that. So I think to answer that question directly, it would be the 6K. I don't have the Pro because I couldn't go there, but I've got the 6K.
That's great.
I was early. I was early for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Courtney.
Well, I've purchased a few things. The Stream Deck, which I still have to spend some more time on because I've only got 3 buttons programmed on it yet, and the ATEM Mini Pro, and I had already had an ATEM Mini. I have 4 or 5 ATEM switchers, which I've had. But one thing I want to thank Office Hours for is allowing me to go back into my vault of sound gear that has been sitting, sitting for in a vault for a long time and go through the microphones and pick out one that I like, and go through the mixers and go through all that stuff, and do repairs and bring stuff back to life because it now has a purpose again. And so I've been very appreciative for that. And of course, there's the B-Link.
The B-Link by Courtney.
There's the B-Link. No.
Chuck.
So much stuff, and I apologize, I wasn't prepared, but I now have let's see, 2 ISOs, 2 minis, an Extreme. We bought a 2ME this year. I have 4 Stream Deck XLs. So just thank you to all of you. I know I'm not on the panel a lot, but you have a huge influence in what we do.
That's great. Thanks. Next question.
Sam Greenwood of Toronto, Canada. What's going to happen to office hours once COVID is over?
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
I normally like to be the last one to snark because it's good. But a bit of warning for people. We are messing up the planet. And there are only 3 ways in human history that we've controlled population: immigration, war, famine, and disease. Right now we're seeing famine and disease, and unless we get off this rock, we're going to see the others.
Well,
COVID is just what we're dealing with now. There will be others that follow if we don't look after the planet and look after each other. So building communities like this, spreading knowledge, that's going to be a big thing for the rest of the future.
Well, I think that beyond the, I think that COVID allowed us. I mean, it's this kind of a tragic moment of COVID, but it allowed us to fuse and allowed us to build to a point where we reached critical mass, where this is valuable, regardless of whether we can go out or not. I think for a lot of us, and a lot of us have built our businesses that are working now, that'll keep on doing the same thing, that we can, keep on doing. I don't expect things to change, with what we can do. I do think that there is an incredible opportunity for us to keep on changing the world. My mission statement that I wrote for myself in 1992 was, a worldwide transformation through a global conversation where no one's left out. And that's what this is for me. And that was 30 years ago, and I just want to keep doing it, and this is all I've worked on, and I persuaded Lucasfilm and Google and Facebook and some consumer companies to spend $40 million on my education, and so, I want to take that and just keep applying it, and with your help, and, when, we feel connected, when, kids in African villages feel connected to kids in Iowa, we're there. When they feel this connection, when a kid in Zimbabwe is explaining how you play an mbira to a kid who's also playing an mbira in Iowa, and sharing that with someone in London and sharing that with someone in Tokyo, and they're all found each other and are able to share that completely, we're there. It's probably going to take the rest of our lives to get to that point. So it's more of a peak that I'm trying to, or a star, that I'm trying to go towards, and I'm so appreciative of all of you, this is my dream, like my dream to connect all these people, connect it. And it's all I've been working on for 30 years, and, anyway, it's so powerful for me, and it's such an honor to be, with all of you. And I just so appreciate the effort that you put in every day to be part of this, to be part of a revolution for me. Like, I'm not obviously doing this because I'm trying to get somewhere other than I'm trying to get it done, and this is the crew, So, anyway, thanks. I didn't expect to get so caught up. Anyway, Bill.
So we appreciate how you feel about it, because I think we all feel the same way. I do want to make one note. I don't think this is as fragile as people fear. And the reason I don't think it's fragile is because we've never seen more a flood of information that needs to be out there to do the kind of things we do here on office hours every day. I mean, this has been a transformation, and it will continue. The world will continue to transform. And where else can you come and be part of something that keeps you at least reasonably current with this incredible fast flow of information that is a part of this changing technological world that does connect individuals for great purposes if it's used smartly. So I think even if I get busier and I seem to see things on the horizon, they're going to make me busier, I'm still going to prioritize coming here, because coming here makes me more able to deal with what's happening out there. And that is very important.
Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the strategies that you've incredibly well executed from the very start was to build up this core team that's coming all the time. And like Bill mentioned, like I think I joked about this with you early on. It's like, it's not about you, Alex. It's not about you. This can go on. Like if you can't make it, this goes on. If any of us don't make it, I think that this is going to persist, because of this group that there's so many of us dedicated to it that want to make that global conversation. And particularly, it seems like we've got the global conversation going at this point. Now we need to get to the point where nobody's left out. And so that's going to be exciting. I don't think we're going to be wrapping this up anytime soon.
Yeah. Ray, and then Marty, and then Leo. No, we'll move on. Oh, and then Interlock.
This is all right on, because I am very lucky. I live in Vancouver, which happens to be an incredibly multicultural community. There are people from all over the world that live here. It's the highest percentage of people. And by the way, there's no ethnic group that's in the majority anymore. None. Right. We're all, but the biggest problem in the world today is one of the easiest emotions to elicit in people is fear. And the easiest way is for them to fear the other. When you work and you play and you socialize and you check into a group that's from all over the world, you cannot fear them and you cannot hate them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Mater, Marty, and then Leo.
Well, I don't see this community going away. I see this community building even further. We may not be able to make it every day because we'll be able to work. Yay! But I actually see this community building into or developing tentacles and business opportunities with each other to grow. I really want to, mention Alex's idea for these digital first meeting event, the future of meeting events and conferences and conventions, spawning all these regionalized event spaces for gathering people together, the executive level people together to maintain that personal experience, but and having all of the regional interconnected is a great idea, and just those kinds of business opportunities that we can all work together on. It's just, that's how I see them going.
And to me, the stuff that we're starting to do with Mad in the Kitchen is actually part of that puzzle, is figuring out, like, using that as a test ground for us to figure out, how do we do this? Like, how do we all work together in mass? And we're fortunate enough that Sky brought it in, and that Madeline is willing to play with us. Let us just start putting our, let's just all gather around and start causing trouble. And that's going to be something I think we look back on and as we start to do more of bigger productions around just this morning's show, we're going to learn the best ways to do this, and we're going to also learn how to work together. And I think that's going to end up becoming a lot of our businesses. I think this is going to be kind of one of those Xerox PARC things, where just a ton of things come out of how events get done and how people interact that are based on the conversations and based on the people that are here. Leo, and then Matt.
So taking that further, I don't think it's about this individual conversation, how that will go, because that will have its own shelf life, etc. I think it's about the principles and how this works. And I think that's the most interesting thing to me, is that there's a new concept of how to do something, how to educate and how to get two-way conversations. I'm already doing this with my other events, and people are going, this is completely different to having one person delivering and just talking for 25 minutes. This is about a conversation, a two-way conversation. This will expand and be used in schools, universities. It will be used in medical environments where they'll be going, right, we've got a problem here. Rather than just sitting there writing a paper and this, that, and the other, let's make this happen on a regular basis. And if you've got a problem, bring it on a regular basis. The top people in the world, and we may or may not see ourselves as the top people in this field, but there'll be other fields. That's where I think it's important. And you always have to demonstrate something where you've got people with experience of knowing how to use it, which is what we've got here. And then you can then pass how to do this to many, many others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that every industry would benefit from something like this happening every day, even if it's different people showing up, and you get a core people, or every week, where, I think about like programmers should all have, where the name I got this one was, we built some stuff for Google they do the thing called office hours, where they bring the programmers in. There's like 3 or 4 of them that answer questions, but it's only 3 or 4 of them, and so I think that it would benefit a lot of people to do this, a lot of different groups to do this. Talak and Matt.
So I just want to challenge us to remember that, when Andy Carluccio came in, that brought in a bunch of theater people like me.
Yeah.
And so every time we bring in another group of people, there's more of a heterogeneous mentality.
Yep.
But also with the core curation of how this platform is put together. And there's just some really, really powerful things about that.
Yeah.
You're expanding knowledge and keeping it curated. And let's make that better. Let's bring that. Let's elevate that even more.
Well, and as everyone here keeps on hopefully sharing office hours with the people that they know, not worrying about whether they like it or not, just see where it sticks and let them watch a video or whatever of it. I think that we keep building into those different areas. But yeah, I do know that the biggest thing we got out of Zoom OSC was all the new people that, some of them stuck, and stayed with us, and like you, and it's been great to have that big chunk of influx. At first I was a little concerned about it because it came in and it was a little bit of chaos. I got so many emails angry emails from people about, I don't understand why I got these emails, and I don't understand what this thing is, and I don't understand. And I was like, oh no, like I shouldn't have done that. And then it turned out great, and we got a lot of great people. Matt.
One of the things that I think you guys should really look in the next year, look at really making ways of expanding this group. The knowledge that has been captured here is incredible. And I don't know if it should be once a week, that there's, a brainstorming session or something of how can we expand this to the world. What you said, Alex, is right on the money. I'm sure you've got a million ideas of how to do it, but more brain power, the better.
The main thing that I'm worried, so I can flip the switch at any moment and make this much bigger. Like that's not a problem. It is, but it would all be from one big push or one big push over here. What's powerful is all of you sharing it with people that and having it organically grow with people that are interconnected, and there will be a point where I turn a couple knobs up and we bring more people in, but we have to make sure that the number of people in the people in Discord, we have a culture that really works. The fact that we have very few issues, in Discord, and the fact that we have very few issues here is all something that will go away as it gets bigger. And we need to make sure that we have a large enough and a powerful enough core to withstand the influx of people. And so for me, part of it's figuring out how do we expand and then, have people become part of that culture, not take it over, and in the culture that we, and have it become something that is not what made it special. Like it could be unspecial pretty quickly. So part of it is me, and I've been very fortunate to be able to have an understanding employer that lets me play with this, ongoingly. And I can do this every morning without having it to turn into anything quickly. So I've been allowed something that is what most startups don't have, and this isn't a startup. I mean, it's going to become a foundation, but it's that I can be patient, and I can grow it slowly, but I do agree with you that, but I look at it as a function of how many people are sharing it, how many people are, and how many people stick. And, it gets a little bit bigger every day. It does speed up when I'm on Mac break, I will admit, because there's like an influx of 100 people, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I know that you're leery of things growing too quickly or whatnot. But is there a downside? Two questions. Is there a downside to moving forward with setting up the 501c3? And two, are you interested in talking to people that know how to do that? Lawyers?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in talking. We're doing the research on it. We're putting it together and we're building the board, and, there's a board of directors that has to get built. And so I'm just organizing those things. And, but I'm always interested in talking about it. It's not done yet. So some help would be great. And
I volunteer to be on the board.
Okay. All right. We'll ping me in Discord.
Mukana, proceeds from the sale of Mukana would be a great start. You've been promising us Mukana for a long time.
We do it now. So just so you know, we do make Mukana available. It's just a custom build for each show. And so it costs money to do it. I mean, like it's so we are doing it. In fact, we just did it in Canada recently. So, cool. So anyway, so we do private activations of it right now as we get the front end fixed. That's the thing, is just people being able to do it themselves. Okay, let's go to the next question. I do have to end at 10. So we're going to go through some of these questions. I can't go all day. All right.
Ed Willick of Valley Cottage, New York, and I can't believe I'm reading this. Would it be today or tomorrow that Happy Birthday to Office Hours should be sung by the panel?
Tomorrow we have to sing it. First hour tomorrow we'll sing it, because that's really the birthday. This is the eve of the birthday. So, all right, next question.
Greg Gibson, Washington, D.C. Next up, and he says, congrats, Office Hours, Alex. I heard you talk about the future of events on a Photo Joseph YouTube video last March. Your words provided inspiration in a dark time. You said you were exploring ways to continue the conversation. Thanks to Office Hours, I have gone from zero production experience to producing over 200 virtual events. So a comment more than a question, but pretty indicative.
Amazing, Greg. Greg, yeah. We'd love to have you on more often. I know you come on every once in a while. We'd love to. I know you're busy because you've figured out how to do all these events, but we'd love to have you maybe even break some of them down if you're interested. I know that you've done some pretty amazing things. So hopefully we'll get you on, and I'll give you a second hour to talk about your progress if you're interested. So just ping me in Discord. Next question.
We're getting a lot of just pats on the back. Charles Klein, the effective office hours on each of us will ripple throughout the rest of our lives. I am forever grateful. Thank you all.
And I wish Charles was here with us to enjoy. I know he's probably working and listening to this and everything else, but Charles, you've also made a huge impact on us, like just watching you open up stuff and talk through that. There's people that when they've come in, there's some people that they come in and you just go, oh, that they added this really important piece of knowledge to the community. And Charles is definitely, you've become one of those people that, I know that we can answer certain kinds of questions because you're there, that none of us can answer. And I think that's and I get really excited, like, okay, we can answer this thing. And your answers are so thoughtful and considerate, in addition to being mind blowing. We definitely love to see you here as often as you can make it. Next question.
Our friend George Kennedy, who can't be here today, I guess, says, interesting question. Alex, any regrets? The loss of sleep?
I think the biggest, the thing I struggle with the most with office hours is that I didn't do it earlier. That we weren't more prepared for when COVID happened. I mean, I knew that eventually this was going to be a big deal. I wanted to do it. I even had slower time. The problem was I just never knew where I was going to end up. Before I was gainfully employed again, I was just freelancing and knew eventually this would probably go away. And, I started a Patreon thing for Pixel Core thinking maybe I'd raise enough money to be able to do it full time. Just didn't quite figure out how to turn that corner. And so me trying to do this was over a couple of years. And I think I regret not holding on to the Pixel membership longer, like, and really building that up and growing it, because it was thriving at one point and it just didn't make the turn, because it's just great. But I don't have a lot of regrets about what we've from March 25th on. There's lots of things we make choices about, and we haven't gotten all as fast as we probably could have or wanted to, but I feel like it's pretty amazing. And I think that pulling any of those pieces out or accelerating them could have ended up with something different. So I'm quite happy with where we're at. Next question.
Deborah Woodfork of Washington, D.C. says, "Hi, Alex. When will you post the next part of your Medium post on Zoom fatigue? Really learned a lot from your post a few weeks ago."
Hopefully next week. I have this deck that's due on Friday that I'm working through, and so it got pushed in front of that article. So the article is just going to be about what I think does actually fix it, which is a lot of what we've learned here. Next question.
Joe Lovell of Bellingham, Pennsylvania says, "What Shakespeare play are you quoting from, Alex?"
The only one that I know. I know it sounds great when I quote Shakespeare, but I played Henry V in the play Henry V. It was like a little community thing. So I just happen to know that. I know a lot of Henry V lines because I can still remember some of them. They're still hidden somewhere in the back of my head from 30 years ago. Next question.
Peter Moore on the panel from Auckland, New Zealand often. Has Alex reached out to anyone in Antarctica yet so that we can add the 5th continent to the office hours resume or CV? Oh, apparently it's 7 continents now.
Yeah, I haven't. We've done streams from Antarctica. I haven't personally gone, but we pulled links in. The hardest part is the bandwidth. If you think Wi-Fi is bad, it's like the bandwidth from Antarctica is just downright unforgiving. It's like 15 frames a second if you're lucky, and everything else. So it's the angle to the satellites that makes it so hard. Anyway, but if anyone here goes to Antarctica, we fully expect you to join office hours from the island. All right. Next question.
Rachel Ann Clifton, hi Rachel, is in with, "There are so many of us who are silent, such as A. Mitchells. Please mention their names during this reflection and honoring all of their work. Thank you, Beauty Bubble, and everybody else." Yeah, there are a lot of people.
Yeah, and Rachel was in early, and I would get critiques. When we first started, Rachel would send me critiques of what I was doing early on, and it was good. It had me thoughtfully think about those things. I still get them every once in a while, and I always welcome them because it has me have to think about what I'm doing and how I'm structuring it. It's interesting. It's great. So Rachel and A. Mitchells and
Katie Lake, there are a bunch of people. I'm just trying to think there's so many names I see go by that do not appear, but they are really a part of the family here.
Absolutely. Roscoe and then Courtney.
I was going to say the post show is an amazing place because I met somebody who is an amazing expert on doing photographs, who's working on this incredible archive. And it was only because of the post show.
Who's that?
I'll have to look it up.
Okay. Yeah. But in the pre show is really fun too. What I find funny is I do look forward to the time when we have organized this enough where it runs 24/7. And, we have this show is kind of a quick Q&A, but there's like a post show that just runs until the pre-show starts sometime at midnight or whatever. And people just talk, or these become different hours that we cover different things. And they're spread out, and in between them, there's just people hanging out and talking about this stuff. Cause I actually love listening to the post show. Like when I walk away, I love having it just running, cause it's just, there's still more knowledge just oozing out of the system, and it's just, it's fascinating. And I love the fact that there's completely different communities that come before and after than there are in here. It's Courtney and then Roscoe.
Sorry if you hear it, I'm being attacked by lawn blowers. But the A. Mitchells, I might point out, is not silent. In fact, I don't know anyone who can type as fast as that guy can type, because in the chat room, so much information is scrolling by that's coming from him that it's quite amazing. And he's quite a contributor, although we can't convince him to show his face.
Yeah. Go ahead, Roscoe.
Brody Hefner and his father-in-law traveled around the United States doing the farm pictures in the 1920s. And so he has an incredible archive of all these pictures of the farms all around the United States.
Wow. Okay, that's super cool. Very cool. I would love to see those.
I'll put a link in.
Yeah, next question.
It's another comment. Alex, James Babbitt, a frequent flyer in the questions from San Diego. Thank you, Alex, and panelists and attendees for bringing office hours to life. Happy birthday, office hours.
Thank you.
And then after that, Laura Thompson. Hi, Laura. from Beaumont, Texas. Thank you, Alex. What do you think the future of education is from the office hours perspective?
Well, I only have 5 minutes.
Yeah, a little tiny question there to finish up with.
We've talked about it a little bit, but I think that I think about education a lot, and I think that what we're going to see more of is a lot of us of conversations where we watch the stuff we want to learn. We hang out and work with each other over, online, where we can congregate education around our level of interest, our level of expertise, of those things, rather than being constrained by time and space. And we're, that's the real possibility here, is that, we can gather 300 people that are interested in something very specific or need to learn how to do it. And we don't have to find them in Pittsburgh or in Greensboro or Tucson. Those are things we can find them anywhere. And that allows us to build an incredible web, of knowledge. Leo?
So to take that point, as you know, I've started my Synagogue Tech. We're already planning our Jewish education to follow on from this. So we're going to use this format to there. Obviously, I'm going to just be hosting or organizing, but not actually on the panel. But it's going to be the same format, and it will be a worldwide thing for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris?
Yeah, I was just doing a little research on how to get to Antarctica to log on once.
Yep.
And the first sentence it says in this article is, I can't scroll that smoothly. It says there's at least one place left on Earth where you can truly disconnect.
Well, I know for a fact it's the some of the science things have connections that we can get a hold of, because I've done it. But I think that's the only place that you can actually be you can connect, is a couple of the little labs there. So.
I would love to go to the Edmondson Research Lab on the South Pole. It's one of my dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we expect it, Chris. We expect you to do it soon.
Figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm working on it. Frequent flyer miles.
Yeah,
Take a reel of fiber optic cable with you, will you?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I watched the SpaceX launch of the latest Starlinks, and the guy that was narrating it actually said that Starlink's available in the South Island of New Zealand now, and I saw an ad for that on YouTube anyway, but so it's going to come to Antarctica, so it's just a matter of time, really.
I could see Elon Musk doing it over the poles just because it'd be good press. Stuart?
So Peter, you haven't gotten your email reply yet? Because it is available for New Zealand and Australia, but I'm just waiting until I find out how big the cells are, whether it'll cover Adelaide and all the racetracks in between
Stuart,
there and here.
I can get 4 gig up, 4 gig down fiber. So why would I?
All right. Well, what a great couple hours. That was really fun. I tend not to be very ceremonial, so I was like, I don't know if I need to do anything on a 1-year anniversary, just another day, but it's worth looking back, and taking kind of taking account of it anyway. So I just really appreciate everybody, and I just really appreciate all of you coming and joining and being part of this big conversation. And I think that we're going to look back a decade from now at a bunch of companies and a bunch of things and a bunch of the world changing. And I think that this could be a piece of that. So
thank you, Alex. We would not be here today if it hadn't been for you on day one.
We believe you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. And we're going to jump to the post show. Oh, there we go.
There
we go. Thanks, Victor, for creating that, and our little great. Now we're going to jump into the post show where we can keep on doing this, or some of you. I have to go to work.